26th of September. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster.
Leading your news on this Monday morning, Sir Keir Starmer has kicked off Labour's conference in Liverpool with a policy blitz vowing to reverse Liz Truss's cut to the top rate of income tax and announcing a plan to end the UK's dependence on fossil fuels.
It comes as the pound slumps to an all-time low against the US dollar, further fueling fears of an imminent recession.
Protesters have clashed with police outside the Iranian Embassy in London as demonstrations against the Islamic Republic spread around the world. 5 officers were seriously injured, 12 people have been arrested.
The official period of mourning being observed by the royal family ends today, 1 week on from Her Majesty's funeral. It comes amid new bombshell revelations surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in the wake of Brexit.
So there we are, folks. A very good morning to you. Hope your day and your week turns out well. What have you got to talk about? What has changed in the world? What do you want changed in the world? Get involved in the conversation, gbviews@gbnews.uk. Or you can email on Twitter. Anything your weekend, Isabel, that changed your life?
I had a really lovely weekend. Yeah, I was celebrating a friend's birthday.
You remember
I remember it. Oh, yeah.
Good, yeah.
It's lovely.
And it's a big week for you this week.
Yeah.
Isabel turns 50 this week. So she does. As if. Oh. No, it's actually...
Feel about
it's a landmark.
I'm 40 on Thursday, yeah.
I dread when it happens to me. I do. But anyway,
You're
congratulations to you on that. Birthday wishes to Miss Isabel. Very, very welcome.
Okay, our top story this morning. Sir Keir Starmer has kicked off Labour's conference in Liverpool with a string of policy announcements, including a reversal of the cut to the top rate of income tax that was announced in the Chancellor's mini-budget on Friday.
The Labour leader also unveiled a new strategy to massively expand wind and solar energy in the UK in an attempt to end the dependence on fossil fuels.
Our political correspondent Tom Harwood has this report from Liverpool.
Yesterday was the first day of the Labour Party conference this year, and the Labour leadership will have been really rather pleased with how it went. Things opened with Sir Keir Starmer delivering a personal tribute to Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, whom he described as Britain's greatest monarch. This was followed by an uninterrupted minute's silence from Labour delegates and a rousing rendition of the national anthem, the first time such an anthem has been sung at the Labour Party conference. Whilst there were some fears that it might have elicited some protests from some of the more animated delegates present, no such protests were seen nor heard. It went off without a hitch, and then, without too much of a gap, it was on to the deputy leader of the Labour Party, Angela Rayner, delivering the first big set-piece speech of this conference, a speech with humorous elements, with a bit of policy, but also in the way that only Angela Rayner does, rousing that crowd, delivering a new couple of nicknames for Liz Truss as well. Level Down Liz and Trickle Down Liz. It almost sounded like some form of beat poetry at some times, but here's what some of those in the audience made of her speech.
Great speech. From the heart. No notes or anything like that.
It's got a very good way of explaining things and in a way that you feel that you're involved.
It was excellent. Yeah, brilliant.
Favourite bit?
The sleaze merchants, the Tories. That made me laugh.
They see her on camera and they think, but then you see her in real life and you're like, wow, that was really quite good actually, yeah. My attention span is quite low, so the fact I was watching is quite impressive for me.
I would like to have heard a bit more reference to proportional representation. I think that's going to be the biggest issue this year, and I think, but yeah, I mean, the speech was great, it really was.
Yes, it was just one thing after another that was just what we want, what we need.
Do you think the nickname Level Down Liz is going to stick?
Well, I think there'll be a few names that'll stick. Yeah, that'll be one of them.
Clearly a lot of love for Angela Rayner amongst the Labour Party faithful here. There's more of a question, however, in terms of how that bombastic style will have gone down in the wider country. But today was all about more introspective Labour Party issues. Of course, the floor voted on constitutional amendments in the afternoon and, crucially, the order at which policy is debated at this conference. This is a conference that decides Labour Party policy. Unlike the Conservative Party conference, there's more member and delegate action here. And one of those votes deciding at 3 p.m. yesterday was that proportional representation will be on the agenda at this conference. It's going to be a big fight. 60% of constituency Labour parties have policies supporting moving the Labour Party to supporting proportional representation and abolishing first past the post. But yesterday, Sir Keir Starmer said it wasn't a priority for him and he didn't want it in the manifesto. This could be a battle in the coming days between the Labour Party membership and the leadership. It's certainly one to watch.
Well, joining us now for more is the assistant editor of Conservative Home, William Atkinson. A very good morning to you. William, I was reading over the weekend that when Kwasi Kwarteng was making his statement on Friday to the Commons, there were audible gasps and even some swear words being uttered by former Conservative ministers in response to what he was announcing. There is now this being described as this clear blue water between them and the Labour Party. We're hearing a lot about that from Liverpool. But what's your analysis on the face of it, first of all?
Well, I can certainly say that my eyes widened somewhat watching the Chancellor's mini-budget last week, and perhaps not as far though as they widened when I saw Angela Rayner's speech yesterday. So if the Tories are going off in the direction of sort of pursuing full-blooded free marketeering, for better or worse, you've got the same sort of tedious screed of class war there from Angela Rayner. I'm sure it went down well with the Labour Party faithful, but a bit like Anirudh Bevan complaining about, calling Tory voters vermin. I think Angela Rayner's persistence, insistence on simply sort of trotting out the same sort of rote phrases and sort of little silly sort of denigrations of what the government is doing or what Tory voters actually want means that she's actually not a particularly sort of outreaching figure. And I think as a consequence, if Labour are going to spend their conference clapping people like Angela Rayner, who's so happy to call Tory voters and Tory MPs scum, that they're not going to get much closer to Downing Street anytime soon.
Just to make it clear, I mean, just to spell it out for us, you as, running or assistant editor to Conservative Home, do you actually think that there is a chance of what Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss have proposed will actually work? I mean, just where do you stand? Is it a no-hoper or is it brave and absolutely might just turn everything around?
Well, the way that I wrote it up for the website last week suggests that the Chancellor was A, brave, and B, hopes to get lucky. Now, I think there are a lot of policies in the mini-budget that I would individually support, and I think that there is certainly the potential, if the government goes sort of full-bodied in the pursuit of growth, that we could certainly try and get our anemic growth rate up. However, what I question is doing so in the middle of an economic crisis. And I think certainly from the reaction that we have from the markets, I think the government should be perhaps more wary than it seems to have been recently about the potential for debt servicing costs, for example, to increase very rapidly. So I watch this space. On the other hand, the Chancellor has got lucky with global energy prices currently plummeting, so maybe you won't have to borrow as much as expected. So I think certainly it's a bold new departure, and with risk can come reward, but that doesn't mean necessarily that it isn't partially a gamble.
Yeah, and I suppose also a gamble in terms of whether or not it will appeal to the red wall. I mean, it very much felt like a mini-budget for the more affluent in society, and understandably, because that will generate money, in theory, for the coffers. But will it resonate with those people in the red wall?
Well, I think if the Tory party that won all those sort of swathes of seats that had either never gone Tory before or not gone Tory for generations in 2019, certainly were voting perhaps for a very different Conservative Party prospectus than the one that they got last week, whether that was on the leadership of Boris Johnson or whether it was the idea of levelling up being something that included giving more powers down to different parts of the United Kingdom, or indeed if they were voting for a Conservative Party that was more comfortable with larger spending. But through a combination of different factors, whether that was the implosion of Boris Johnson's own time as Prime Minister, or the fact that we're facing a very different economic outlook than we were 2 or 3 years ago, the Conservative Party's pitch has had to change. And I think if Liz Truss is able to deliver 2.5% growth in a lot of these areas across the North and Midlands, which haven't seen growth rates like that for decades, then certainly she has a very clear pitch to take to the country in 2024. But then again, if she is going to deliver a Conservative Party that is neither able to deliver growth and is perceived to only be cutting the tax on the richest in society, then certainly she doesn't have the pitch to make herself levelling up Liz rather than levelling down Liz, as Angela Rayner would have it.
William, thanks for your take on things. We put it out there to our listeners and viewers. You heard what William had to say as a commentator there. He's a Conservative commentator. If you are a Labour voter, or would you change to be a Labour voter if you're a red wall constituent? And is this a budget for you, or, you know, is it all changed from here on in? GB Views at gbnews.uk. You can tweet at GB News as well.
Now, overnight, protesters outside the Iranian Embassy in London clashed with police, injuring 5 officers, with 12 people being arrested.
Now, these demonstrations are part of a wave right around the world of condemnation of the Iranian regime. This is following the death of Mahsa Amini, who died after being arrested by morality police for not covering her hair with a headscarf.
Well, let's get some analysis of this now with Shiva Mahboobi, a spokesperson for the campaign to free political prisoners in Iran. Very good morning to you, Shiva. First of all, you know, truly horrifying situation, what happened in Iran, but very interesting development now that these protests are not only sweeping around the world, but occurring here in London.
Yes, good morning to you. Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's horrifying that a young woman being killed, tortured and being murdered just because part of the hair was showing. And now, obviously, following the death of Mahsa Amini, the young woman, the demonstration started. But I guess this is Mahsa's death just highlights how women been treated in Iran, because in the last 43 years, the misogynist laws, the basically violence against women being systematic, and Mahsa is one of millions of these women, including myself when I was a teenager. So basically, what's happening in Iran, it's a protest against all this crime against women that has been going on. And I have to say that the fight against hijab and for women's rights have been the cornerstone of the fight against the regime. And we can see that now how the slogan "Women, Life, Freedom" has been echoing everywhere around the world. But at the same time of this, the poverty, suppression, oppressing every single person who say something against the regime, punishing LGBTQ members with execution, and many more is happening in Iran. And really, people had enough. And I think this time is a very different time. And you can see the protests. Just to let you know, this week the schools are starting in Iran, and teenage kids, teenage students going to school, and they announced that we're going to go without hijab because we are protesting against hijab, and many brave women burning their hijab. Demonstration is going on since 16th of September every single night. Hundreds of, almost more than 1,000 been arrested, tens of people been killed, especially university students been arrested, and still is going on every single evening until midnight. There are protests. And as you mentioned, there are lots of support for people in Iran, especially from well-known people, celebrities. But unfortunately, we see the governments are still quiet, especially the British government.
Shiva, though, all of these protests, and I don't think any of us have seen anything so visible in terms of standing up against the regime in Iran than what we're seeing at the moment with this wave. But I put it to you, will anything change? I mean, this regime will make them change. And you're saying that there is silence from the British government as well. What really, they've tried to change so many things in Iran over the years, and still it just goes on, it just continues.
Well, the fight against the dictatorship is a process in the history. If you look at every country, just for example, from the very beginning, when they started 43 years ago imposing hijab, actually there was severe punishment. It was way worse than that. I mean, myself was a political prisoner just because I was against hijab. So that has been going on true. But what happened? People have been fighting. 2 generations have been fighting. And as a result, now fight against regime, especially in terms of hijab, has been the demand of the society. Right now, if you notice, this next generation have been on the street, have been forcing the government. And actually the reason that you see lots of support around the world, especially even from non-Iranian people, from many well-known celebrities, it's just because this fight has continued. So there is a change. The change is in these people now. There is a government that people has never wanted this government. So that's really important. It will change. The regime will be overthrown, but no revolution has happened overnight. I think the point is now that people are putting their life in danger and they're saying, we had enough. This time we have to end it and finish it. And we never, ever had this type of support around the world from an individual. But I guess now what is really important is the governments around the world, and I'm specifically mentioning British government, UK government, to take a step. I mean, the first step would be summoning the basically Iran regime's ambassador to pressure them to release all these detainees, to stop cracking down on the protester. So it's really important. I think now, if you notice, there is a kind of silence around the world from the government as nothing is happening. So therefore, I think it will happen. I mean, people obviously don't need the government necessarily to rescue them or attack Iran or anything like that. But I think it is important to know this is the duty of any government, and specifically British government, to basically take an action. If you remember, we still have 2 British Iranian citizens in the jail in Iran. So therefore, I guess it will change. But the point is where the British government stand in this. We see, I mean, Liz Truss, I haven't heard anything from her actually mentioning anything in condemnation. And to be honest, now condemnation is not enough anymore. Therefore, I think that's why people are so angry in front of the embassy. Embassy is a representation of an oppressive regime in the heart of London. And what the British government does about it, I think this is a responsibility. This is what people want to know.
Shiva Mabobi, spokesperson for the campaign to free political prisoners in Iran. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The time coming up to 18 minutes past 6. Let's bring you up to date with what's happening news-wise.
Well, the far-right party Brothers of Italy is projected to win the Italian election with 26% of the vote, leaving the way clear for a right-wing alliance. Their leader, Giorgia Meloni, will become the country's first female prime minister, and she's now calling for unity to help confront the country's many problems.
2 teenagers have been charged with murder after a 15-year-old boy was stabbed outside a school in Huddersfield. Police say the male suspects, aged 15 and 16, have also been charged with possession of a bladed article following the death of Carrie McLean. They'll appear before Leeds magistrates today.
The Post Office is expecting a rush of customers depositing old paper £20 and £50 banknotes this week before they can no longer be used. September the 30th is the last day to deposit them, with the new notes featuring artist JMW Turner and Bletchley Park codebreaker Alan Turing.
Look, we're going to hit the break, and coming up we'll have a latest series of The Crown. We're going to be previewing that. It is on its way. It will come out in November. Kinsey Schofield is in LA for her take on that.
But first of all, here's your Monday forecast. Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK is looking windy and chilly to start, especially in the north, with rain clearing the far south. Let's take a look at the details. Well, across southwest England, after this morning's rain clears away to the south, there will be scattered showers around and some sunny intervals also. Feeling cold, especially in the moderate northwesterly wind. A band of heavy rain will clear southeast England through the morning, and this will be followed by showers that could be heavy at times. Across Wales, there will be scattered showers around, though there will be some sunny spells too. The best of the sunshine will be in the south. Sunny spells for most across the Midlands this morning, but also some showers feeding in on brisk northwesterly winds and feeling more autumnal, especially in the wind, with lower temperatures than over the weekend. For northeast England, it will be a windy day with showers at times, most frequent and heavy along the coast, feeling colder than recent days, especially in the wind and along the sea line. It's going to be a windy and cold day across Scotland with scattered showers at times. Some of these will be heavy, particularly along eastern coasts later. After overnight rain, it will be dry for a time across Northern Ireland. However, there will be some showers later, particularly for northern coastal regions, feeling cold, especially in the wind. So it will remain windy across the UK this afternoon with further scattered showers, though some sunny spells too. And that is how the weather is shaping up for you on this Monday morning.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
to each and every one of you
for helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England,
Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio and online.
We're proud to be
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
welcome back at 6:22. Still to come on this morning's programme.
In 15, whatever it is, 20 minutes time, 6:45 in other words, the Evening Standard's defence editor, Robert Fox. Now, Robert, right across everything that's happening in Ukraine, thousands, of course, are arrested in Russia for protesting, being called up in a draft. Think if you were in that situation, what would you do? Probably what most of those folk are doing, running for it.
At 7:45, the Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Pat McFadden, will tell us why Labour would reverse some of Liz Truss's tax cuts.
OK, you can join in the discussion. You know what to do. You can email us, you can tweet us as well. And you can talk about anything. Love to hear from you. I'd point out that today, Monday, September 26, means that the royal family's official period of mourning is over. The public mourning was over last week. Royal family was longer. This is a week after the Queen's funeral at Westminster Abbey.
Well, this comes amid new reports that Prince Harry is attempting to make last-minute changes to his memoir to tone down its content. So for more on this and all the other royal stories doing the rounds this morning, Kinsey Schofield joins us from Ely. Very good morning to see you, Kinsey. Quite different from where we saw you this time last week. Listen, Prince Harry, is he having a rewrite because he wants to tone it down, or is he having a rewrite to add in some new juice that he got during the funeral?
Well, Isabel, that's a great point. But what we're hearing is that he is nervous. He's afraid that he'll come off insensitive, and he's afraid that there will be backlash if he releases some of these, stories right after the death of Queen Elizabeth. And as his father, King Charles, is trying to, start his reign on a high note. So we're being told that he is hustling, trying to get some items removed, trying to work around some of the stories he's told in his his book. However, that just might not be an option at this time if he really does want that fall release date close to Christmas to get the Christmas rush. Those pages might already be on the printer. So I think that that's really interesting that we're hearing that. I don't know if I anticipated that. I really thought he'd pull the book entirely after last week. I was really hoping that he would go in that direction.
He mightn't be able to decide that direction, of course, Kinsey. As you say, the book on the printer, the contract has been signed.
Yeah, he's already had half the money, hasn't he? 35 million, half of which he's already...
I'm sure so.
We spent it.
Yeah, perhaps that is the case. So the publisher's probably very strongly calling the shots.
Absolutely. And Isabel, it's like you said, he already cashed a huge check and they have 16 bathrooms. That's a lot of toilet paper, Isabel. So we don't know what the next steps are because the publishing company has actually been very secretive about the official release date. But just to go along in the same lines, I have also heard that there are edits being made to Meghan's upcoming podcast interviews to ensure that nothing insensitive or insulting is said in the direction of the royal family, because according to sources, Harry did not anticipate so much love for the family over the last few weeks. And Harry is intimidated by the reaction. So much love for his grandmother and so much love for King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla. He was taken aback by that. And that's what got him into this whirlwind.
Well, it's not just Harry's book that we're going to talk about. There is someone called Valentine Lowe. They have got a book out and people are talking about it. What are they talking about?
Oh my goodness. If only you and I were in our pajamas, snacking, going page by page. It is so good, this book. If you are a royal gossip fan, they talk about how Meghan thought she was going to be the Beyonce of the UK. Some of the former Sussex employees call themselves the Sussex Survivors Club. They said Harry and Meghan acted like teenagers. Their behavior was very immature, the way that they dealt with their staff and their personnel. Now, Valentine Lowe, he released some of this information right before the Oprah Winfrey interview, and in teasing it, the Sussexes sent him a letter from their attorney threatening legal action. Now, the article was published and that legal action never happened. And as we have noticed, if something is wrong and the Sussexes can prove it, they take that person to court. They did not take Tom Bower to court, and they did not take Valentine Lowe to court for his original published story. And here is this book with all of these other juicy details about Meghan allegedly bullying palace staff, making them feel very small, and I think that this book is going to be very harmful towards the Sussexes brand.
And lastly, Kinsey, November the 9th is in my diary, ready for the drop of the latest season of The Crown. What did you make of the trailer?
I mean, I feel guilty, Isabel, because I do love The Crown. It's my guilty pleasure, but I also don't want anything to come out that might harm King Charles and Queen Camilla in this new reign. And that is what they're anticipating. They're fearful that this new season is going to ramp up people hostile at Charles and Camilla again. I've heard that the palace is hoping that they can combat some of this by putting out actual facts about the couple, actually creating content around the couple and their love story that will come out around the same time to try to combat some of the negative attention that the Crown will bring.
Okay.
Interesting times.
Wow. Thank you, Kinsey. Appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Love you both.
Narcissist.
Who?
Not you. Not Kinsey. Not me.
I wonder who you're talking about.
This is what Valentine Lowe called Meghan Markle. I don't think you can actually get any worse, really, than a sociopathic narcissist. Look it up, folks. Look it up. See what you make of it. Dawn Neeson, Christopher Biggins, and the newspapers right after this break.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
across England,
Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
on radio,
and online.
we're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
After 6:30, very good to have you on board, on television, on radio, online. This is Breakfast on GB News.
Let's bring you up to date with the latest headlines this hour. The Chancellor is hinting that more tax cuts could be on the way as the pound slumped to its lowest level against the dollar since 1971. It comes as Labour's Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, prepares to announce the party's economic plans at the conference in Liverpool.
Scotland Yard says at least 5 police officers were seriously injured, 12 people arrested following violent disorder near the Iranian Embassy in London last night. Rival groups clashed at a protest calling for an end to the Islamic Republic of Iran. The protests were sparked by the death of Mahsa Amini, who died whilst in Iranian police custody.
Electric car owners have been hit by a 42% hike in the cost of using public rapid charge points in just 4 months. The RAC says it's now nearly £10 more expensive to rapid charge a family-sized electric car to 80%.
So how much more expensive would it be to charge the car to 100%? Why are you only charging your car to 80%?
So many more questions come
so
from that.
So many questions.
I have a
hello.
charger at home. Sorry.
Yes.
I have a charger at home. I wonder if that's changed price.
Wow, yeah.
Well, your electricity would have changed price.
Yes, that's true. I just suddenly thought.
But it is an interesting thing, Biggins. Christopher Biggins, we should say, and Dawn Neeson here with the newspapers this morning. But somebody like you trying to do the right thing, getting the electric car.
Yeah.
You've had yours quite a while now.
I have.
So maybe, it's all going wrong now, isn't it? It's going to be a deterrent. People aren't going to be running, trying to do this as quickly as they have been before.
Well, that's life, isn't it? Everything we're not going to be rushing to. It's a terrible situation we're in.
Yeah. How's it all affecting you? Electric car, would it put you off doing that? Let us know. So let's stay with you, Biggins, and we're talking about the tax situation. At the Labour Party conference, Keir Starmer will say, I will reinstate 45 pence tax to back public services. This is front page of The Guardian.
I find it very distressing that there's, already we are now in this fighting, 2 different camps, 3 different camps, if you count other parties. I just think, wouldn't it be marvellous what we suddenly have come to a point where if only we could get together And, you know, there's this, you know, he's saying one thing, the Conservatives are saying another. I mean, what is the answer? I'm not sure.
Well, lots of people have been saying at least finally there's a difference between the two parties, and actually you can go and really know what you're voting for, whereas before a lot of people were sort of
I suppose that is
crossing the line.
But you're asking for a government of national crisis. We're in a national crisis.
Exactly.
And like almost like wartime, you're saying, well, why can't you just all put your party political stuff aside and get things done?
Yeah, because we need to get things done. I mean, we're in a terrible situation. I mean, goodness knows what's going to happen come January of next year. I mean, it's going to be appalling.
Yeah. So, Dawn, you were itching to get in there about that?
I was just going to agree with Isabel, because I think, you know, at least you do for once have clear blue water between the two parties, whereas before it's been a bit muddied with what each party actually stood for, but now you do. It's very interesting looking at all the front pages today, though. I mean, they fall, again, the clear blue water between the left-leaning papers and the right-leaning papers. I mean, The Guardian's sort of like Keir Starmer, marvellous, da-da-da-da-da. Meanwhile, papers like the Daily Mail are Kwasi's boost for family and the Express Trust pledges to build world-beating economy. So, again, the papers are very clearly divided on which camp they're supporting. But, I mean, I agree with Chris Biggins on this one, because it's like, you know, reinstating the 45p tax thing that Kwasi Kwarteng abolished on Friday. It's like, OK, yeah, you're talking about it. You can't do anything about it until you get in power, possibly in 2 years' time, possibly not then. So, you know, all the papers are obviously covering the Labour Party conference, as they were the Conservative one coming up. But what's the point of a conference
But it
now?
reinstates the opinion that this is a budget for the rich.
Yes,
and
no,
as you
absolutely.
were talking about earlier, Isabel, how that will go down in red wall
Well, absolutely, and the reporting from conference is that there is a real buzz this time. There's a real sense that they're actually finally getting close, possibly, to winning an election. And, you know, these sorts of policies will resonate with people in the red wall.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Because the Independent today, Starmer fears reversing tax cuts will cost the election. Not the high-end tax cuts, but the cut from 20% to 19% in the basic tax rate. Now, Starmer is saying he's not doing that because he wants to carry on helping people, which he probably does. I believe deep down he's probably a good man. However, the Independent, I think, have nailed it there, because he thinks if he does that, telling ordinary working families, whatever that actually even is these days, that they will have to pay more tax under Labour, might lose him those votes as well.
Interesting.
I was shocked too today to read in some of the papers where the conference was ordered to sing God Save the King, which I think...
With the words, in case they didn't know them.
I know. I thought that said a lot.
Well, what does it say? It says that Labour says patriotism and the country and the wave of all of that in the wake of the Queen's death, we'll have a bit of that, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's saying that, you know, being a Labour voter means that you're unpatriotic, but they're really just making it clear.
Absolutely. I think they think it's a voter's joy, you know.
Capitalising on it, aren't they?
You know.
Yeah.
Interesting. Look, we were talking before, weren't we? Biggins was saying, why can't they sort of all come together in a bit of a unity act? Dawn, you've chosen the story in the Mail. Labour and Lib Dem are doing a unity act, aren't they?
Well,
They said
although both parties deny it, obviously.
Right, OK.
There's no joined-up thinking about how we're going to deliberately target the seats that the Lib Dems can win over the Tories. I mean, sort of like, you know, Labour attempt to strengthen an anti-Tory pact, not a pact, both denied it, by targeting only 2 seats that are held by the Lib Dems in the next election. So basically it is a pact, isn't it? They're just determined to go for the seats that are very vulnerable to Conservative wins, and there's only 2 they're going to go for. So how they, on one hand, they can deny they are going to sort of like join with the Lib Dems to oust the Tories, and then the next saying, well, we're only going for these 2 seats because they're the vulnerable ones. You know, if the Lib Dems will win these over the Tories, we're not going to bother with those ones.
Biggins, being in the public eye, being an entertainer, you'll know that it is a thin divide line, a tightrope to walk, coming out and declaring your political affiliation. That it can, you know, turn a lot of people off. And as an artist, you might think, well, it's not worth that. So here we have the footballer Gary Neville, the former footballer, and he's making big noises, which may indicate he has got political ambition. But basically, he's saying the tax cuts that the Conservatives have put in place are for the rich, and they are immoral, he will say. and he's backing Keir Starmer for PM.
Well, I think that's his opinion, isn't it? I mean, you know, and good on him if that's what he wants to say. I mean, celebrity is a very difficult one. You know, we all have opinions, and yet sometimes one's frightened of actually saying what you want to say. I mean, I remember, for instance, a personal thing was being gay. When I was doing children's television, and in the 80s, you had to be very, very careful. You know, and I was always open. I mean, I was never hiding it. But you couldn't say everything that you wanted to say.
Yes.
So it's very tricky. And I think it's certainly tricky politically nowadays to be a celebrity and say what you think.
I remember in the 80s, people like Bob Monkhouse coming out and being very pro-conservative. Jim Davidson, I don't think it's done Jim any harm, really, as well. Jim's a regular contributor to GB News. What do you think, Dawn?
I think the whole Gary Neville, look, as Biggins has just said, it's his opinion, it's perfect right to express it. But, I mean, he said, I don't know anyone on more than 150,000 who think it's the right thing to do. Well, I don't think he knows that many footballers. I know quite a few footballers are actually quite keen on getting their next flash sports car,
Absolutely.
their next holiday, etc., etc. So, and also he says, what does he say here? Yeah, I can speak directly when I'm not involved in politics. He says taking a front seat at the party conference. I mean, I think he does have... He's saying, no, I'm not interested in becoming a politician. I don't have political ambition. I want to speak for the people. Well, how in touch is he with the people, really? Because he is in that top bracket, and he's very clearly got political ambition. But I think the problem with celebrities coming out with opinions is the fact that it's OK if they stick by it, but it's the hypocrisy I think a lot of people have. Yeah. It's like people like Emma Thompson and Prince Harry lecturing us on the green economy and what we should do and shouldn't do, and feel guilty about taking your 1 week holiday in Benidorm while they fly around the world on the private jets. It's the hypocrisy involved. So I think celebrities, Biggins, you probably know more than me, obviously I'm not one, but you have to be very careful to not be hypocritical in when you're expressing an opinion, because ordinary people go, right, OK, you can't tell us to do something while you don't do it.
I agree, totally. You just say, you know, I suppose that's the attitude.
Yeah.
That is the danger. But what's his name in Manchester? Andy Burnham, the mayor of Greater Manchester, you know, he's sort of also hinting, don't rule me out of Westminster.
Well, and disagreeing with Starmer on his position on
very big.
So what I'm saying is it's interesting, this little jigsaw that's happening.
So you could see
Burnham,
Neville going to Burnham's spot, Burnham going to Starmer's.
Well, Burnham is very ambitious.
Where does Starmer go, though?
He's also very good. He's
I like him.
Well.
I like him. Yeah. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
He is saying that he would put that 19% back up to 20% for low earners, isn't he? So
he just said,
telling the working class
anywhere
families they pay more tax.
Not a good idea.
But you see, the thing about what happened on Friday, I mean, all very well and good, but anybody would sit and look and say, but the country's broke, the country's bankrupt. Yeah. How are we going to pay for all the things that we are supposed to pay for? And all we hear is, yes, we'll pay that. Yes, we'll give you a grant for small businesses. Yes, we'll subsidise your electricity. Yes, it just goes on and on and on.
Well, we seem to have a magic money tree stroke forest when we had the COVID crisis, didn't we? There was money from all over, where it was coming from, but money was given.
Well, we borrowed it, didn't we? And now we're having to pay it back at a higher rate.
Yes.
So, you know, £45 billion in tax cuts and £72 billion in increased borrowing announced on Friday. People saying, have the lunatics taken over the asylum, or is it the shock and awe that has been promised? And as Eamonn was saying, could it just be the thing? Could it save us?
Isn't this the same, though, all over Europe and the world? I mean, everybody is doing this.
UK government have taken quite a bold, different approach to pretty much any other government at this stage, and it's been widely commented.
But Italy is going to be interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. So now she's going to win.
We get to the Telegraph, and you've chosen a story about immigration here. Immigration must fall amidst the growth drive, Truss is told.
Well, immigration, I find the immigration thing very strange. I mean, you know, how they messed up the whole business of Ukraine. When, you know, people were in terrible, terrible straits. And in order to come to this country, they had to fill in forms on computers, and they couldn't get through. There was no, you know, it was a terrible situation happening there. And then finding that they had to go to another country like Rwanda was very odd, I thought. I mean, I think the immigration isn't at all as it should be. I think it should be organised a little better.
Well, and then we've got these labour shortages right throughout the market.
I know.
And people can't deny these. I mean, you just, in your everyday life, you will see this in the hospitality industry, whether you're checking into a hotel, there's a lack of cleaners, there's a lack of waiters, there's a lack of cooks, there's a lack of... Just right around. I mean, just
fruit pickers, stuff rotting in the fields.
Yeah, so many things. And somebody somewhere has got to say, let's organise this, and we've got to accept a certain amount of immigration to fill these
And that's
jobs.
a cabinet row that Liz Truss is expecting to have.
Exactly, that's the story, isn't it? But you can't, I mean, it can't be beyond the brains of the people supposedly running this country to sort something out that actually makes sense and that will work.
But the trouble is, no one wants to work doing those things. I mean, it's hard working in a kitchen.
You're fleeing from Ukraine or...
Yes, for a better life here.
For a better life here.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's not... All the things we've just been talking about, and you're absolutely right, we're in a terrible situation with restaurants, with hotels, but people don't want to work. People don't want to clean a room.
Yeah.
You know, it's as simple as that.
You're right there, Biggins. And I mean, looking at the summer passed, and, you know, when I was a teenager, it was about getting jobs, working in hotels, working in bars, working, you know, just doing anything that anybody else wouldn't do and getting cash.
Yeah.
And thinking, gosh, I can buy a pair of jeans this weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
What's happened to that generation?
Well, everyone
that
just
ethic?
wants to be famous and
Yeah.
be on
Be a
Instagram
footballer,
or
a rap
reality
artist.
TV.
Or the
doing
parents
work.
pay for them.
Well, quite, there is that. But I remember that as well.
Yeah.
But back then, back in the old days, you used to be able to leave one job and walk into another without worrying about getting a job, and no one...
Cleaning cars, cutting grass, you know.
I love being a barmaid.
Oh, yeah, bars were for me.
Girl. I was a shots girl.
Were you? I thought I would
Were
be
you?
a barman. I thought I would be a barman. I thought that's
Yes,
what my
yes,
job would actually
We'd run
be.
a great pub.
Do you know, I worked on TV for 2 years, doing the tea time news and working in a pub at night.
Yeah.
Because I thought the TV thing wouldn't last. Yeah. I still think it wouldn't.
There's still time, Eamonn.
Yeah. What do you think you'd be, Isabel, if you weren't doing this?
An interior designer.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I get that.
Like a
Well, I don't get it. You obviously haven't been to your house. I haven't. No sign of that.
You need the
at
Holy
all.
Trinity to have the perfect home inside. You
And
need
your
time,
career-
money and taste.
And your career as
I
a
don't have
diplomat
all
now
three.
is well and truly
Yeah.
over, by the way.
Well, you know.
When we come back, Biggins is going to talk about doggies. And he's going to talk about corgis. And wow, if you have got a corgi, and I'm a bit split in this because people do breeding in a really ghastly way with poor dogs. But anyway, you could get $6,000 for a corgi.
I know.
We're going to talk about that next time round. Your view's very welcome.
At the time, it's coming up to 10 to 7. Let's bring you up to date on the latest headlines. We were just touching it in the paper review there, the results coming out of Italy, because the far-right party Brothers of Italy is projected to win the election with 26% of the vote, leaving the way clear for a right-wing alliance. Leader Giorgia Meloni will become the country's first female prime minister, and she's now calling for unity to help confront the country's many problems.
2 teenagers have been charged with the murder after 15-year-old Carrie McLean was stabbed outside his school in Huddersfield. Police say the male suspects, aged 15 and 16, have also been charged with possession of a bladed article. They'll appear before Leeds magistrates today.
Japan will hold its first state funeral in over half a century for its late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe today. Mr. Abe was assassinated in early July while speaking at a political event. The cost of the funeral is expected by the government to be over £10 million.
You up to date with the latest what we know is happening in the Ukrainian-Russia conflict. Robert Fox, defence editor at the Evening Standard, friend of this show, joins us now. Robert, good to see you again. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this whole conscription thing that is going on with Russia. It sounds good, it sounds amazing. I'll get 300,000 more people to enlist in the army, but they're all running. They're running.
A lot of people are running, and overnight, or from yesterday, Zelensky's, that's the president of Ukraine's latest broadcast, beautifully timed, beautiful approach. He spoke about treating Russian deserters fairly. And he said, public broadcast, which will be picked up in Russia, deserters will be treated fairly, according to all the conventions, and we will not return them to Russia, which is a very interesting move.
I get that, and I can see the attraction of that. But there's also room there for, is there not, for espionage, for spies, for, you know...
well, that's been going on already.
Who do you trust? What I'm saying is, you know, who will you treat fairly? And they come into your side of the camp, and goodness knows...
Well, if you get them en masse, and there's a possibility of a 10,000 surrender in Kherson if the latest manoeuvre works.
Better than any battle, isn't it?
That's right. And in Lyman and in the Donbass too, they're doing their extraordinary bait and hook. They said, we're going off in one direction. Oh, by the way, we're going to go round the back and surround you, which is what the Ukrainians are proving very, very good at. Kherson's difficult. It's different and difficult. It's a very hard battle. But I want to quickly focus on the thing that you raised with the conscription, or sorry, the call-up, the mobilisation.
Yeah.
It's much bigger than we realised, because there's something really weird about Putin's broadcast and his statement. A, it didn't happen when he said it was going to happen. B, it was recorded. C, a lot of it was secret. Where has this figure of 300,000 come from? It's come from Shoigu, the defence minister. In reality, they're trying to put over 1 million, or about 1 million, under conscription. And that, we're beginning to see the signs here, there, and right across the country, is causing real trouble, particularly with the minorities, particularly with the poorer regions. Because again, typical Putin, he is not going for the rich, the posh, and the articulate in the west of the country, around Petersburg, around Moscow. But if you get a high casualty figure, and I think the magic figure is 100,000, and we're getting near it, that is killed, wounded, disappeared, deserted, then that is bound to get into the community, the intelligentsia, as the Russians would have called it in the past. The rumour mill will get going. I think he's really on the brink at the moment. And Putin, being Putin, will double down. And the biggest, one of the oldest military maxims is never reinforce failure. He looks very much as if he's doing that now.
And the latest on the referenda, those have been going on over the weekend. And, I mean, we know the results before we hear them, but...
we know what the figure was, even before it started, 75%.
Yeah.
I mean, the intelligence has picked that up, because stuff was being shipped over from Moscow from about that. 75% turnout and roughly 100% for joining Russia. How he'll do it is going to be very difficult. The date to look for is this Friday, the 30th of September, when he's chalked in, whether it will happen, to give a nationwide broadcast saying, this is now part of Russia. It's the same playbook as when they took over Crimea in 2014. And it's then what? Is he going to talk nukes? He probably will again, but he has really been given now an official severe warning that we will react, we, the West, will react. Not with nukes, but I'm not quite sure what the something else is going to be. But there have been at least 3 or 4 exercises, tabletop exercises, where they've gone through this, the NATO command.
Robert, initially, when we started talking, we were thinking, why doesn't someone take Putin out? Why isn't he deposed? And now we hear that behind him could be even more dedicated fanatics. Are we better at the devil you know or the devil you don't know?
There is always that argument, but always at the real top of things. You know, it's the command of an out-and-out dictator, a Hitler or a Stalin. You never quite know who is calling, quite truly, literally, the shots from day to day. And you get a different candidate coming up to take over from Putin, including Yevgeny Prigozhin, the caterer, Concord Catering, who invented the Wagner Group, who invented the Troll Factory. It's that sort of people. What you've got is you've got 2 groups who are locking him in place, but they're now concerned about him, from what we can tell. One is the spooks, the former KGB men like him, the FSB and the GRU. The other is the military command, which is going through very slowly. That one prominent general comes up, you sack him. He sacked the deputy defence minister for failing in logistics. As if anybody who comes in to take over his place can do any better, because they don't have enough modern equipment, they don't have enough modern-minded trainers. And this is the dilemma.
So they're going to recruit 1 million new troops, soldiers, people that work in logistics, who are not military trained. They're complete novices. How do you take people who have never served an apprenticeship in the military and whatever and say, right, from tomorrow, you're soldiers?
Well, what seems to be behind it is a classic domestic terror tactic. To say, we've got tabs on you. We know what's going to happen. You are now under our control. You are now part of the totalitarian state. That only gets you so far. What are you going to do? What are you going to do about Ukraine? You've got to put boots on the ground, as you were saying there, or tanks on the ground, whatever. So you could flood it with. They've already lost, as I say, in combat effectiveness, about 100,000 out of a force which was initially 180,000. And you've got to regenerate. The numbers are looking fantastic. So if you put over 250,000 in there, try and drown the whole thing, as one headline has it this morning, drown Ukraine in blood. How do you sustain the 250,000? And this is why Zelensky is coming back to NATO, and it's selective NATO. Forget about Italy. Now, Italy will say, oh, basically they love Putin, and even more they love cheap gas. That doesn't count. Even a lot of Germany is being discounted, but it's in this order. It's the US, UK, Poland, France, and they've got to put in enough weapons, enough support to go through the 90 days into winter now. Watch this space. And the battlefront is as lively as ever. And actually, on the front lines, we're beginning to see in combat-capable troops, there is equality between the numbers of Ukrainians and the numbers of Russians available.
Robert, absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much indeed. Robert's the defence editor at the Evening Standard. Thank you.
Do stay with us. We're going to be live for you this morning from the Labour Party conference in Liverpool. But first of all, here's your forecast. Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK is looking windy and chilly to start, especially in the north, with rain clearing the far south. Let's take a look at the details. Well, across southwest England, after this morning's rain clears away to the south, there will be scattered showers around and some sunny intervals also. Feeling cold, especially in the moderate northwesterly wind. A band of heavy rain will clear southeast England through the morning, and this will be followed by showers that could be heavy at times. Across Wales, there will be scattered showers around, though there will be some sunny spells too. The best of the sunshine will be in the south. Sunny spells for most across the Midlands this morning, but also some showers feeding in on brisk northwesterly winds and feeling more autumnal, especially in the wind, with lower temperatures than over the weekend. For northeast England, it will be a windy day with showers at times, most frequent and heavy along the coast, feeling colder than recent days, especially in the wind and along the sea line. It's going to be a windy and cold day across Scotland with scattered showers at times. Some of these will be heavy, particularly along eastern coasts later. After overnight rain, it will be dry for a time across Northern Ireland. However, there will be some showers later, particularly for northern coastal regions, feeling cold, especially in the wind. So it will remain windy across the UK this afternoon with further scattered showers, though some sunny spells too. And that is how the weather is shaping up for you on this Monday morning.
Hello there, it's Eamonn Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
on radio and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's
News channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Keir Starmer attacks Truss's mini budget as the pound plummets to an all-time low against the dollar.
Hello there, just after 7 o'clock. A very good morning to you. Monday, the 26th of September. On television, online, on radio, this is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn Holmes and Isabel Webster.
Here's what's leading the news this morning. Sir Keir Starmer has kicked off Labour's conference in Liverpool with a policy blitz. He's vowed to reverse Liz Truss's cut to the top rate of income tax and announced a plan to end the UK's dependence on fossil fuels by 2030.
Now, this comes as the pound slumps to an all-time low against the dollar, further fueling fears of an imminent recession.
Protesters have clashed with police outside the Iranian Embassy in London as demonstrations against the Islamic Republic have spread around the world. 5 police officers were seriously injured and 12 people were arrested.
The official period of mourning observed by the royal family ends today, a week after the Queen's funeral. It comes amid new bombshell revelations surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in the wake of Megxit.
And you can join in any of our discussions. Get in touch the usual way. Email us or you can tweet us. And a few of you have been already. Read a couple of those if you like. Les in Newcastle says, up until 2017, I always voted Labour without question. However, I ceased to as I opposed Corbyn. I chose to vote Tory in 2019. So I am in the red wall. And I can't say I'm going to be returning to Labour anytime soon. Which is interesting. Thank you very much. And on electric cars, because we were talking about those with Higgins, weren't we? John says, the increase in charging station prices don't worry me. I have one vehicle which does 330 miles and you can do a long daily commute on that. Keep your thoughts coming in.
Top story this morning, Sir Keir Starmer has kicked off Labour's conference in Liverpool with a string of policy announcements that include a reversal of the cut to the top rate of income tax announced in the Chancellor's mini-budget on Friday.
The Labour leader also unveiled a new strategy to massively expand wind and solar energy in the UK in an attempt to end the UK's dependence on fossil fuels.
Well, let's go to our political correspondent, Tom Harwood. He has this report from the conference in Liverpool.
Yesterday was the first day of the Labour Party conference this year, and the Labour leadership will have been really rather pleased with how it went. Things opened with Sir Keir Starmer delivering a personal tribute to Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, whom he described as Britain's greatest monarch. This was followed by an uninterrupted minute's silence from Labour delegates and a rousing rendition of the national anthem, the first time such an anthem has been sung at the Labour Party conference. Whilst there were some fears that it might have elicited some protests from some of the more animated delegates present, no such protests were seen nor heard. It went off without a hitch, and then, without too much of a gap, it was on to the deputy leader of the Labour Party, Angela Rayner, delivering the first big set-piece speech of this conference. A speech with humorous elements, with a bit of policy, but also, in the way that only Angela Rayner does, rousing that crowd, delivering a new couple of nicknames for Liz Truss as well. Level Down Liz and Trickle Down Liz. It almost sounded like some form of beat poetry at some times, but here's what some of those in the audience made of her speech.
Great speech. From the heart. No notes or anything like that.
It's got a very good way of explaining things and in a way that you feel that you're involved.
It was excellent. Yeah, brilliant.
Favourite bit?
The sleaze merchants, the Tories. That made me laugh.
They see her on like camera and they think, but then you see her in real life and you're like, wow, that was really quite good actually, yeah. My attention span is quite low, so the fact I was watching is quite impressive for me.
I would like to have heard a bit more reference to proportional representation. I think that's going to be the biggest issue this year, and I think, but yeah, I mean, the speech was great, it really was.
Yes, it was just one thing after another that was just what we want, what we need.
Do you think the nickname Level Down Liz is going to stick?
Well, I think there'll be a few names that'll stick, yeah, that'll be one of them.
Clearly a lot of love for Angela Rayner amongst the Labour Party faithful here. There's more of a question, however, in terms of how that bombastic style will have gone down in the wider country. But today was all about more introspective Labour Party issues. Of course, the floor voted on constitutional amendments in the afternoon and, crucially, the order at which policy is debated at this conference. This is a conference that decides Labour Party policy. Unlike the Conservative Party conference, there's more member and delegate action here. And one of those votes deciding at 3 p.m. yesterday was that proportional representation will be on the agenda at this conference. It's going to be a big fight. 60% of constituency Labour parties have policies supporting moving the Labour Party to supporting proportional representation and abolishing first past the post. But yesterday, Sir Keir Starmer said it wasn't a priority for him and he didn't want it in the manifesto. This could be a battle in the coming days between the Labour Party membership and the leadership. It's certainly one to watch.
That was Tom Harwood in Liverpool for us there. Now, joining us is Dr Sandesh Gulani, Shadow Health Minister for Scotland. Very good morning to you. Good of you to come here rather than to conference today. Look, first of all, your reflections on the big story at the moment, and that is, you know, the announcement on Friday from the Chancellor, and indeed, what do you make of Starmer's position on it as well?
So what is the point of a government? Well, a government needs to set the conditions out for business and for people to have jobs and also to grow and we get more wealth. And that's exactly what the budget is doing. It's trying to be aspirational and it's trying to get people to keep more money in their pocket, which is incidentally something that Nicola Sturgeon is not passing on to the workers of Scotland.
Let's look at the whole NHS system, not just in Scotland, but everywhere else in the country. You're a practising GP as well. Will Scotland see any of this benefit? You say Nicola Sturgeon won't pay this money on into the NHS. Where are you at your weakest at the NHS?
Well, let's look at our A&E figures. They're the worst on record. And a hospital like Forth Valley only saw 38% of its patients within 4 hours. And figures that we have obtained from Freedom of Information shows that one of the biggest hospitals in Scotland, the Edinburgh Royal Infirmary, over the month of August, was overcapacity for every single hour in A&E at an average of 200%.
Yeah. OK, that's the problem. What is the solution? Is it just as simple to say we spent money on this, it needs more and more money? Is the kitty empty?
We don't need more money. There's a lot of money in the NHS, and I've given Holmes so many solutions. Look, Holmes Yusuf has said this is unacceptable, but hasn't actually come up with any plans whatsoever to help. I have multiple solutions. So one of them would be to reduce the silos of money. And what does that mean? So instead of saying, well, look, we've got no money for permanent staff, but we've got money for locums, you need to amalgamate those two budgets and say, actually, we can employ more consultants because there are people who want substantive jobs that are not getting them because they say there's no money. We also need to solve the pensions crisis in Scotland. So those consultants or senior nurses aren't doing extra work because they're going to get hit with a super tax. And it's easy to solve, and I've told Holmes how to do this.
Yeah.
It's the same as Wales, but he is refusing to do things.
You speak as a Conservative politician on all of this, but you are also a doctor, a practicing doctor, which I pointed out. And here's the thing I have about A&E. I just don't understand the optics of A&E. When you attend A&E, there's something seriously wrong with you. You're in a state of distress. People around you are panicked. They're really worried. It's something that's got to be done immediately. A limb breakage or something awful. Goodness knows what, a car accident, whatever. Why does the NHS, wherever it is in the UK, why do they not prioritise that? I might be being quite naive about this, but surely you should be putting your resources there to deal with that trauma first and foremost.
Well, look, I've worked in A&E. I was also an orthopaedic surgeon for 7-8 years, and so I know what it's like in secondary care. So when I'm there in A&E, it's busy. And it's almost like there's chaos going on, but it's very organised chaos. But when you're seeing this level, it actually becomes dangerous.
Yes.
Now, A&E is actually, when you're seeing these high figures, it's actually a symptom of the sickness of the NHS. So what we need to do is invest more money in primary care, in GPs, get more resources into GPs. So we're talking about mental health workers, embedding Citizens Advice Bureau, getting link workers into GPs, getting pharmacists into GPs and physios. And if we do that and expand that out, what you'll see is less people need to go to A&E, which means that you free up the capacity.
Do you get that message out in between everything else that you do? I mean, do you use social media? Do you use podcasts? Do you use books, whatever, to get the message out that you have?
Absolutely. So social media, we're always tweeting, we're always putting things on Instagram. I've got a podcast out called Gulhane Politics, and that's for people to know about what's happening in Scotland, because I think a lot of your viewers don't know how bad things are in Scotland, don't know the problems that we're having, but are interested in Scotland and love the place, and that's why I've started this podcast.
OK. Dr Sandesh Gulhane, thank you very much indeed. He is the Shadow Health Minister for Scotland. Thank you.
Now, protesters outside the Iranian Embassy in London clashed with police last night, injuring 5 officers, with 12 people arrested.
The demonstrations are part of a global wave of condemnation of the Iranian regime following the death of Masha Amini, who died after being arrested by the country's morality police. And why was she arrested?
Well, a little bit of her hair was on display. She wasn't covered up appropriately, according to the morality police. Our reporter, Ellie Costello, has all the latest for us this morning from the Iranian Embassy. Really interesting to see this arriving now, the protests on our shores, as they have been right around the world, Ellie.
Yes, good morning to you both. I'm outside the Iranian Embassy in West London this morning, where over my right shoulder you can see there is a heavy police presence outside the embassy. There's also metal barriers and a banner with Farsi graffiti on the outside of it. So this is just some sign of what we saw here yesterday as protesters clashed with police outside the embassy. We saw scenes of dozens of angry protesters pushing against a line of police officers who were lined up and protecting the building. Some of them were shouting death to the Islamic Republic, and some of them were waving the former national flag of Iran that was used before 1979. And we did actually see a clip of 2 police officers actually wrestling a man to the ground who it looked as though had broken through that police line and was heading towards towards the embassy, and the Met say that masonry, bottles and other projectiles were thrown at police officers yesterday. Many of them were injured. Scotland Yard have confirmed that 5 police officers have been seriously injured in those violent clashes. They are in hospital, and some of those injuries do include broken bones. 12 people have been arrested on suspicion of violent disorder. Now, these protests were expected. We've seen a wave of protests across the world in recent days, all protesting against the Iranian regime after a 22-year-old woman called Mahsa Amini died in police custody on the 16th of September. Now, she was arrested for allegedly wearing her hijab too loosely and showing some hair, and her family say that she was assaulted and tortured by the so-called morality police in police detention in Iran. There are, of course, very strict dress code laws for women that have been in place since 1979, and we've seen really powerful footage and imagery in Iran in recent days of women burning their hijabs, some of them cutting their hair in the streets, all protesting against these restrictions on personal freedom, especially for women. And yesterday we did see that Iran actually summoned Britain's ambassador over what it says was a hostile environment that is being created by Farsi-based media outlets here in London. So Iran have really been trying to contain protests here in London. That hasn't happened. It wasn't the scenes that we saw here yesterday, not only outside the embassy, but also in Maida Vale, which is where the Islamic Centre for England was targeted. Now, the Met have said that they respect the right for people to protest peacefully, but they will not tolerate unprovoked attacks on their officers. They say they will be going through CCTV to try and arrest the people who have committed the most serious of offences. And for the next few days, Eamonn and Isabel, I think we will see very heavy police presence here. They know that passions are inflamed. They know that tensions are high. And there is going to be a Section 35 dispersal order in place, which allows police to have the power to break up groups of 2 or more people who they think could be intent on causing harm.
Thank you very much indeed.
News-wise, here's what's happening. Time just after 7:15. Far-right party, the Brothers of Italy, is projected to win the Italian election with 26% of the vote. That leaves the way clear for a right-wing alliance. Their leader, Giorgia Meloni, will become the country's first female prime minister. She's now calling for unity to help confront the country's many problems.
2 teenagers have been charged with murder after 15-year-old Carrie McLean was stabbed outside his school in Huddersfield. Police say the male suspects, aged 15 and 16, have also been charged with possession of a bladed article. They'll appear before Leeds magistrates today.
Thousands of lecturers and staff members will walk out today for a dispute over pay. Around 4,000 members of the University and College Union at 31 colleges in England will take part in the industrial action.
Now, as the royal family's official mourning period comes to a close today, new claims are alleging that Prince Harry plans to tone down his autobiography in the wake of the death of his grandmother.
Well, the Duke of Sussex's memoir, due for release just in a few weeks' time, actually is the first of a 3-part deal with Penguin that is said to be worth £40 million.
Well, for more, we're joined by former royal correspondent Nicholas Soane. A very good morning to you. Now,
good morning.
I read this idea that he wants to make some last-minute amendments. In my, sort of sceptical journalist mind, I'm thinking, OK, is that to tone it down, or is that possibly to spice it up? Now he's got some new material. But we're being briefed that it's concerns about it being disrespectful so soon after the death of his
I think that's absolutely the case. Right. I can't believe, frankly, that Harry and his wife want to sort of, as you say, ratchet things up. That seems impossible to believe. But toning it down, or just sort of smoothing out some edges. Of course, the problem immediately in the rough commercial world of books and publishing generally means it makes it less of an interesting read. So the money we talk about seems absolutely fantastic. But
yeah, but Penguin wants something in return for that.
Exactly.
A lot in return for that. And also, Nicholas, this idea that you can just suddenly say to the publishers, oh, I want to change that page and that page and that page, that takes a lot of doing. If the book has gone to print or some of it has gone to print.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, these days with, it's interesting, I did, some years ago, quite a lot of years ago now, 10 years ago, I did my own small memoir. And it was amazing to me as a journalist, we've all worked in that sort of frantic world. It took so long from writing it before the thing actually appeared. Now you can actually do things much quicker. So you can make changes in a technical sense very quickly. That's not really the problem, is it? But I do think Harry he must realise that he cannot have a book that is going to sell across the world that criticises the royal family in a way that is bound to be seen as criticism of the Queen. You can't sort of attack bits of it and not the top.
Well, also there's a power shift, isn't there? You know, his father is suddenly much more important, you know, in the form of the King, and you know he's made his opinions quite abundantly clear to Prince Harry. So I suppose he knows which way his bread is buttered, if you like, in terms of his family inheritance and all the rest of it.
We're surrounded by books at the moment, aren't we? There's another one just coming out, Valentine Lowe, very good. I know Valentine well, he's an extremely good journalist and he's done some really good work on it, and going behind the scenes of what's really happened with Harry and Meghan. Some of the stories he tells, we kind of knew most of the details, but what it does emphasise to me is just how sort of sad and bitter these splits really are. And the thing you take away from it all the time is that it seems to me that Harry, or should we say Meghan, has got to choose up. Can't go on like this. You can't be both in the royal family and then decide that you're really a sort of commercial animal and you're going to do what you want to, I don't know, go back to the stage. Some talk of Meghan wanting to be the Beyoncé of the UK. Now, that may just be flamming things up a bit, but you can't do that. Sorry, Meghan, that's not on.
But, I mean, I don't think most people would be OK with them not being working royals and making a commercial living as long as it didn't trash the monarchy in the process. It's this idea of going and doing all these endless interviews, bad-mouthing the family from which she's benefited so
absolutely.
much.
No, I quite agree with you. That's just, the whole thing is, that's just not on at all. Not on.
Meanwhile, The Crown, new trailer's just been released, and of course it's difficult as more seasons come out. It's getting more and more recent history and very uncomfortable, I'd imagine, for the King and his family.
Yes, I'm sure it will be. We're very much going to be focusing on this one on Princess Diana. And those of us 25 years ago, we remember what the things that happened there. I'm sure the royal family will be a bit on edge about it, but you know, these things come and go. I was recently in the situation of talking to a lot of people involved with the making of The Crown itself, the consultants. They're pretty careful about what they do. Of course, it's drama, but they certainly don't set out to be inaccurate.
There have been some complete fabrications, though, and I can't think off the top of my head now, but I remember looking certain things up when I was watching it going, did that happen? And then reading that they had, you know, every now and then a little bit of artistic license.
Of course, they tweak it.
Yes,
they tweak it, yes. But you know, false and taking the story in a completely different and wrong direction.
Yes.
They don't do. And the royal family, I think, rather have to accept the fact that people are going to do this.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, well, Nicholas, thank you very much indeed. We look forward to all of that. Thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Will you watch that? The Crown?
Oh, of course I will. Yes, of course I will. Very, very much so.
You've never watched an episode, have you?
Have you not?
No, I haven't. No.
Got to get with the programme.
But then, I mean, since I will be incapacitated for a while after my operation this week,
talked about
I can have what do you say?
A binge.
A binge.
But why? But why didn't you watch it? That's the interesting question. Was it a conscious decision not to watch it?
Yeah, no. It just wouldn't have been my thing. It just wouldn't have been my thing. But I dipped in once, and I was quite impressed with the portrayals of Prince Philip and Princess Margaret at some stage, and a lot of it, you know, I sort of know. I know, so I sort of think, well, I know all this spin on type thing. So, but maybe there's a time. The thing about the series is you can enter at any stage, can't you?
Oh, yes.
Yes, you don't have to go on to the very
So what's your favourite binge watch then, go on?
My favourite binge watch?
Yes.
Oh, I like Star Trek. Either the original series or the new series that's been launched.
Not a Kardashians man, then.
No. Do you know what I've discovered, Nicholas? You must do it. BBC iPlayer are running One Foot in the Grave from the very beginning.
Oh, right.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Victor Meldrew, who my wife sometimes compares me to, what age do you think Victor Meldrew was when he was retired or they got rid of him from his job? What age does he play as the character?
I'm going to say something really
in
young.
The series.
This is a pub quiz question, isn't it? I should know the answer. I've no idea at all.
No, but what would you guess?
55 or something, I don't know.
Oh, you had to spoil it all.
What?
He was 60. I always looked at it and thought he has to be 72 or something in it. You know?
I don't believe
He was younger than you are now.
Yeah, but it is so funny, and you see how ageist the world is through his eyes, basically.
Yes, we can all identify once we get to a certain point in life.
Certain point in life, yes. Nicholas, thank you very much indeed.
Right, stay with us. We're going through the big sports stories to start your week with Paul Coit next. First of all, though, here's your forecast. Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK is looking windy and chilly to start, especially in the north, with rain clearing the far south. Let's take a look at the details. Well, across southwest England, after this morning's rain clears away to the south, there will be scattered showers around and some sunny intervals also. Feeling cold, especially in the moderate northwesterly wind. A band of heavy rain will clear southeast England through the morning, and this will be followed by showers that could be heavy at times. Across Wales, there will be scattered showers around, though there will be some sunny spells too. The best of the sunshine will be in the south. Sunny spells for most across the Midlands this morning, but also some showers feeding in on brisk northwesterly winds and feeling more autumnal, especially in the wind, with lower temperatures than over the weekend. For northeast England, it will be a windy day with showers at times, most frequent and heavy along the coast, feeling colder than recent days, especially in the wind and along the sea line. It's going to be a windy and cold day across Scotland with scattered showers at times. Some of these will be heavy, particularly along eastern coasts later. After overnight rain, it will be dry for a time across Northern Ireland. However, there will be some showers later, particularly for northern coastal regions, feeling cold, especially in the wind. So it will remain windy across the UK this afternoon with further scattered showers, though some sunny spells too. And that is how the weather is shaping up for you on this Monday morning.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England,
Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's
News channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me! And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Coming up to 8:30, a very good morning to you. Thank you for your company. Eamonn and Isabel here at breakfast on GB News.
Coming up on our programme this morning at 7:45, we'll be speaking to the Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury as Rachel Reeves prepares to lay out Labour's economic programme.
And 8:20, the consumer expert Kate Hardcastle will tell you why the government's stamp duty plan won't do much to help some home buyers.
Go on.
If you've got an explanation or if you've got an experience in all of this, join in our discussion.
Yes, you know how to. gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet us at gbnews.
Wasn't that worth waiting for? That little sting there just brightens up. It's like a little ray of sunshine that just comes into your life. Looking through the back pages, our little ray of sunshine will be with us very shortly, Paul Coyte. But let's go.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
we'll
you,
go to the Daily Star first of all. Football, the lead for them. Southgate says he knows it's Qatar or bust for him as England manager. The Mirror says he has the world on his shoulders. Kill the noise, says the Metro. England star Raheem Sterling backs Gareth Southgate and tells England squad to shut out the negativity. Well, you can shut out the negativity or you can just face reality for England. It's not looking good. It's not good for them in this Nations Cup thing. The only thing you can say is, what does it matter in the Nations Cup?
Well, going into a World Cup, you need to have a good run. I mean, you want to be heading into the World Cup in a positive state.
Yeah.
And this is going to be the last game before the World Cup. 56 days to go until the World Cup begins. England versus Germany. I mean, try this. This would be the sixth consecutive game. If England don't win tonight, sixth consecutive game without a win, and that's the worst run England have had since 1884. So that's not so good. And it's just not looking very good. England are just not playing well. I say everybody, a lot of people complaining about Southgate. Gareth Southgate got booed on Friday with the loss to Italy. And this is the fans over at the San Siro in Milan. So it's not looking good. A lot of people are saying, well, maybe Southgate should go. We should get rid of him. But you can't do it before a World Cup. This is the acid test. We'll see how things go. Southgate has said himself is that if it doesn't go well, the World Cup, if we have a disastrous World Cup, he will get fired. And I don't think there's any question.
I'd love to be fired as a football manager.
I tell you what, the payoff.
The payoffs are incredible.
Yeah.
Is it the only job really in the world that you can mess up and get 2 or 3 years payoff on it?
Yeah. It is. It's the only thing. It's the only thing where you can be bad at your job and get rid of it, and it's a complete disaster, and they'll pay you up the rest of the contract. Wow. It's not a bad job, so maybe we should go to football management.
We should do that.
Go straight on. We'll see. It could well be England soon. So anyway, Germany aren't good either.
Tonight. That's 7:45 tonight.
It is. And also Wales, I should mention Wales lost 1-0 to Poland. They got relegated as well from their Nations League, so moving down as well. Denmark beat the world champions France. So it could be a really interesting World Cup. There's a lot of great nations that are not doing very well at the moment. And like I say, Germany aren't much better at the moment either.
I still, and I speak for a lot of people, I care about my club football. I'm less caring about anything else, really, international-wise. It's all right when it comes along, but...
Is this because you're a Northern Ireland fan?
Well, yes, there's nothing... I understand how people get together and whatever on it. That's fine, but I know what you're saying. You're saying there's not many wins there, so therefore, what's there to look forward to? But just basically, there are too many fixtures, far too many fixtures, and I'm against FA Cup replays being banned.
I agree.
I think
the same thing.
Bread and butter for so many smaller clubs. And I just think just too much on and international stuff. It's all a bit of an irrelevancy sometimes. However, you talk about the World Cup, that's less than 2 months.
56 days to go.
Yeah.
And do you feel like I do? No. It's kind of flying under the radar here. Usually there's a great build-up, we get very excited about it, but probably because it's in the middle of the season and it's November into December, the Premier League stops. It doesn't feel like a normal World Cup. It's a very bizarre thing. Maybe when it gets going, we'll feel different about it. But at the moment, it's round the corner and not people expected are ready for it.
Now, you've got a couple of cricket stories here, the T20 and the ODI.
Well, firstly, England are playing in Pakistan. It's 2-2 at the moment. I mean, it was a really close game yesterday, but lost to Pakistan. Very, very close. But the other one I want to mention is this is on Saturday. Now, I don't know whether you're familiar with the phrase mankad. Now, mankad... It's named after a player. This is back in 1947, Vinu Mankad. Played for India. I'm sure you remember his work.
Oddly enough, that must have just slipped my mind. But anyway.
played against Australia. So now, to cut a very long story short, is that Mankad was a bowler and playing against Australia, and the Australian batsman, or it's the person who actually wasn't in bat at the time, the non-striking end, stepped out as the ball was about to be bowled.
Okay.
And what he did was then stumped that player at the non-striking end. Now, this is, although in the rules of cricket, it's very much not cricket. It's not good sportsmanship. So it's very rarely done. So to do this is called a mankad. Now, this happened in the women's T20, interestingly, against India. England's Charlie Dean. Now, she was playing really well, 17 to win with the last wicket. So she'd been standing for a long time, and she steps out of her crease just as Deepti Sharma, the Indian bowler, runs forward. And just as Charlie steps out of the crease, a mankad is done. Now, everybody's like, you can't do that. But it's within the rules of the game. So it's only happened probably about 4 or 5 times.
So?
But I think it's fine if you step out of your crease and it's allowed. But it's one of those things in cricket or in sport that is just not done or frowned upon.
Did you understand a word of that?
Yes, because Paul explained it so brilliantly.
Thank you very much, Isabel.
Plus, I did also hear his pre-explanation.
I'm lost. I heard his pre-explanation. I still have no idea.
Yeah, but listen, your eyes glazed over the moment I said mankad. I saw the eyes were gone.
Yeah.
Well,
I thought it was excellent.
It's not my sport.
Thank you very much.
There you are.
If it was Manchester United, he'd be well interested, I tell you.
The excellent Paul Coit there with the sport. Paul's back.
I'll write it out for you.
Yeah,
and I'll give it.
It's like
and
the
then we'll talk about it again tomorrow.
of cricket, by
yes.
all accounts.
I feel like I should be working for Wisden. Do you know what Wisden is? No, OK, fine.
Yes, I know. Even I know.
OK, right, fine.
But there are those who say, well, I won't tell you who they say you should be working for. But anyway.
OK, fine. Let's leave that. That just wouldn't be nice. Yeah,
Mr. Paul, thank you very much indeed.
Do stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. After that, we're going through your papers again. We're joined by Dawn Neeson and Christopher Biggins. Don't go anywhere.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
On radio,
and online.
we're proud to be the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
OK, it's time now to go through the papers. We're joined by the actor Christopher Biggins and the former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson. All-round regulars on the show as well. Should we start, Dawn, with the front of the Telegraph then, talking about the US taking catastrophic action if Putin does fulfil his nuclear threat.
Yes, it's not a cheerful headline, this one, is it? I mean, a lot of the papers have obviously, understandably, gone with politics with the Labour Party conference going on in Blackpool at the moment, but the Telegraph has gone with well, basically World War III by the sounds of it. And this is, as we know, Putin gave a speech the other day saying that, you know, all options are open. He is willing to use anything available to him, up to including, well, the implication is willing to use nuclear war, isn't it? So, but this is the White House answering back Jack Sullivan, the US National Security Advisor, and has communicated directly and privately to the Russians at very high levels that they will respond in kind, basically, if a nuclear strike threat is carried out. I mean, it's a catastrophic action if Putin does use nuclear weapons.
I mean, catastrophic is the word. I mean, Biden put it so beautifully the other day, didn't he, when he said, you know, a nuclear war cannot be won. It can't.
It can't be. No, it's just exactly.
We're all.
It's the end of us all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, they must realise that. You hope someone at some point in Russia actually says, no, we have to stop this now.
Well, it just depends how far they're pushed, though, doesn't it? They've got nothing to lose. You just
He's
don't
mad,
know.
though, isn't he? He's mad as a hatter. So
and surrounded by madness.
And the trouble is, if we kill him, there are another 10 Russians to take his place, who are apparently even nastier.
Do you know, when you stand back and you look at his political fanaticism, and you look, and in today's modern world, you just look and you say, really?
Yeah.
Is this important for you to invade another country? I mean, Russia's an established nation. What more do you want?
Yeah.
You know, why would anybody want to get involved in warfare that is just so puny and so irrelevant, really? You know, history will judge him as really behind the curve in terms of progression.
He claims it is democratic because they're holding this referendum, aren't they, where they're going around
where they can't lose.
the annexed areas and they're handing out voting papers with armed gunmen, armed
To be
handing
fair,
them out.
it's a weird situation because, like in Crimea, there are a lot of Russian sympathisers, and
but a lot of those were planted.
Yeah.
They were. It was like the Elizabethan period in Ireland, where they put the plantation, where they just planted English and Scottish people all over Ireland, and then they vote for, you know, the Queen or whatever it happens to be. So it's a nonsense. You just look at Putin and you'll think the world is laughing at you. I mean, they're frightened, they're disgusted by you, but they're also laughing at you. Do you think that matters to him?
Not at all.
Not the slightest?
Not the slightest. I think what does probably matter to him, that most of his Russians are leaving the country rather than being conscripted into fighting a war which they realise they're not going to win.
Because 2 years ago, I was able to film in Moscow and for a week. And I can tell you, all those people seemed to want, the people that I met, was to be westernised.
Yeah.
That's all they wanted.
Oh, absolutely.
They just wanted a Marks and Spencer's there. They wanted to be able to buy a Jaguar car. They wanted just to be able to do the things that we all do. And they were really getting towards that because there are big shopping malls, there are
restaurants,
cinemas, there are, you know, all showing the films that we watch.
McDonald's.
Whatever. So I don't know how this man wants to, and who he's turning back time for. But it's not, if you put it to a vote, I just don't think, well, he fixes the vote.
I just think it's a shame it took Russians, you know, the threat of their own liberty and their own life to actually start letting their thoughts be known and risking imprisonment. You know, they were quite happy to just turn their, you know, look the other way. Yeah. Well,
what about that singer, very famous singer they've got? I can't remember her name now, but she's just come out against Putin, and they
well, very dangerous there, because anybody that comes out on anything is usually found mysteriously dead.
Yes, I know.
Fallen out of a window. Some dodgy
very
tea.
famous. So I think she thinks that probably her fame will stop, and who knows? Anything could happen.
Right, where are we going to now? Let's have a bit of levity.
Oh, can we?
Yeah, let's have something that, well, I don't know if it's levity, actually, now that I look at this. The Queen, her corgis being filmed. What's this resulted on? This is in the Times, page 7.
Yes, well, this is all about the corgis selling for £6,000. And I think what obviously they're doing is they're cashing in on the Queen's funeral and the fact that her love of the dog, and they think that everybody else now. I met some corgis the other day, and I have to say they are enchanting.
Are they?
Yeah.
You could see yourself owning one?
No.
Do you know why I couldn't own one? They're too small to bend down and pet.
Absolutely.
Maggie's exactly the same shape.
Yes, but I know, if she didn't
You
jump
wouldn't
up
have
on the
chosen
couch.
her.
No, I would have chosen her. I'd loved her, adopted her. But I now realise as my back got worse, I
you need
can't...
a big doggy.
I can't, yeah.
Irish Wolfhound for you, I think.
Wow, there's a dog.
They're marvellous dogs. No, I think it's very interesting, though, because they've now become a fashion
statement.
Pet. And I think that's the problem. I mean, I hope that people aren't going to get carried away. Mind you, the man we met the other day was a trainer. Well, not a trainer. What do they call them?
Breeder.
A what?
A breeder.
A breeder, that's the word. Thank you very
anything.
much. Breeder. Yeah, you came to that very quickly. I like that.
Oh, no worries.
Anyway, the breeder was worried slightly that they were going to get, to the point where people will buy them and then they will let them go, which, of course, is terrible. And, of course, we do have that a lot in phases that people go through wanting a dog.
Oh, definitely. In the early stages, I'm told, of owning a dog is much like having children. It's the worst bit.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why you should adopt.
Yes.
That's why you should adopt. That's all done for you. I do worry, though, that you'll get unscrupulous breeders that will just see the cash in all of this.
Well, and they inbreed them a lot as well, don't they? So they're born with so many defects, and it's just so
well, we hope it doesn't happen on that front. Beautiful looking dog. Though you Isabel, say yappy.
I've been told they're yappy, yeah.
Yeah, they have a reputation, don't they?
But you've seen them up close and personal when the Queen's Jeep.
Oh, I have, yes. Yeah, you remind me, yeah.
I'm glad I reminded
Thank
you.
you, yes.
The Queen's what?
Land
Yes, she
Rover.
had them in the back of her car when she nearly ran me over, and they were all yapping, and they were so yappy that they'd steamed up the windows of the back of the car, so you couldn't really see apart from the crack at the top which she had, and then you could hear them.
I think they were getting excited. You know, dogs, you put a dog in your car and the dog knows where you're going and it gets excited. And I've never worked out, is that a visual sense? Is that a smell sense? How do they actually know where you're going? They know their way down certain roads and they get very excited because they know at the end of that there is a walk or there is some sort of treat or whatever it happens.
Well, we can all relate.
I feel sorry for the Queen's corgis, don't you? I mean, because...
What, going to live with Andrew?
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but the fact that, did you see them when the hearse got to Windsor and the corgis were sitting on the doorstep, and how do you get it through to them that Mummy's not coming home anymore?
And apparently
it's the worst thing when Granny dies, isn't it?
But they were there when the Queen was dying or died.
Yeah.
They were in her bedroom and they were there.
That's nice.
Yeah,
on Instagram, there's so many stories of dogs that go and sit on graves of their masters and mistresses. And then there's also these stories where the dog waits for the person coming home from work at a certain time and they're not there. The dog, at 5 o'clock.
Oh my God, this is getting sad,
We're supposed to have some levity.
No, there is a film starring Richard Gere about a dog and it's called Hashimuki or something. It's Japanese.
Oh, right. I thought you were sneezing.
I thought you'd ordered some
it's
sushi.
Called Hikashi or Hashimuki or something like that. And it's very sad, but here's what happens, right? So the dog goes with him every day to work and gets on the train or waits by the train and he goes to work into the city and comes out again, right? And comes home again. The dog's waiting for him again when he comes home, except one day at work he took a heart attack and died.
Oh, no.
He died. Richard Gere died, right? With a heart he just went, right? So basically, but the poor dog, Hashimoto, went to the train every day and the train doors open. They open, right? And wee dog looks around and he's not there. And he never was there again. And then the dog died of sadness.
Oh, that'd be mad.
Happy Monday morning. Yes, thanks for that, Eamonn, yes.
What about Prince Harry with his memoirs guy? Oh, no.
What?
Yes?
Oh, no, so the worst one. Dawn, wait a minute.
Hold on. Where's he going?
No, never mind then. Tell me quickly about this calendar.
What?
Calendar.
Right, it's linked to dogs. It involves poo.
Yes.
OK. Right, this is in the Daily Star, page 3 of the Daily Star, designed to cheer you up, by the way. And this is Chris Packham, the wildlife presenter, who has launched, it's not April the 1st, is it? Has launched a calendar costing £20 that is full of poo.
Why?
Because Because actually, you can identify various wildlife, what's in your garden, etc. And if you're going for a walk in the countryside,
Yes.
so I've just done a weekend,
Before you step
from
in it.
the poo.
Yeah.
And so animal poo is quite important.
Remind me about this. We'll talk about it more after
Okay.
our next interview, but I've got a funny story when it comes to all that. We'll talk about that. But we've got to turn our attention now to politics. Dawn Biggins, we'll see you
There's
again
a
in the
link,
next hour. Thank you
seamlessly,
both so
poo,
much.
politics, same difference.
All the same.
It is day 2 of Labour Party conference, and the Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, will today make a speech on Labour's plan for the economy, including its promise to reinstate the top rate of income tax.
OK, she joins us now. She is the Shadow Chief Secretary to the... Oh, sorry, no. Oh, sorry, I thought that was Rachel Reeves. Sorry, Pat, it's you. I thought you don't look like Rachel Reeves today. I just suddenly see it is you, my friend.
She's a lot better looking than me, Eamonn, you know. But I'll do what I can for you here.
Pat, what about the conference? Do you really feel there is a wave of momentum that we're looking at a government in waiting from Labour?
Well, I go back a long way, Eamonn. I've been coming to these events for many years, and I really do feel there's a great feeling at Labour conference this year. We've lost 4 elections in a row. I don't want to have to go back over that, but we've had a very bad time in being in opposition for a long time. And I think when we look at Friday and the budget that the Chancellor announced, we see a government that's taking huge risks with our economy. They're being reflected today in what's going on in the financial markets. And I think as the country looks at that, they will take another look at Labour. And the job for us this week and after the conference is to make sure that they like what they see, that they see a responsible party that's learned from some of the mistakes it's made, to be honest, over recent years, and has a different approach and can be trusted with running the country. That's our job this week, and it's our job after we leave Liverpool at the end of the conference too.
To be fair, I mean, Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, have been planning this for an incredibly long time. You only have to look at Kwasi Kwarteng's book, which outlines a lot of these ideas. And, perhaps the shock and awe that there is some, method to the madness.
Well, there's a problem in writing a pamphlet or a book 10 years ago, and then you put it into practice, and it's no longer a seminar room or a little experiment. The stakes here are very, very high. We're talking today about the plunging value of our national currency. We're talking about the consequences of that and the pressure on the Bank of England to increase interest rates, which will put up everybody's mortgage rates. We're talking about how this is funded in the future. This isn't a pamphlet or a book anymore. This is the economy of a great country, and I think it's too important to run experiments with based on some kind of pamphlet that was written 10 years ago.
What we're getting to see is blue sky. At last, sort of, serious policy differences between yourself and the Conservatives here. We go to the front of the Daily Mirror today, and taking centre stage, the former footballer, the former Manchester United defender, Gary Neville here, and he says what they came forward with on Friday, tax cuts for the rich, he calls them, are immoral. Would you go that far?
Well, what they've done on Friday is effectively ask my constituents in Wolverhampton. They're borrowing from my constituents and many other communities like that in order to fund a tax cut for people earning more than £150,000 a year. I remember we used to talk about levelling up. This is the opposite of levelling up. It is taking from people in my constituency to fund a tax cut for people earning that amount. So we do believe that's wrong, and that's why Keir Starmer came out yesterday and said that's the wrong priority. We won't go ahead with that. We've nothing against a tax cut for people earning ordinary wages. We do have some concerns about the borrowing for this and how it's being funded, but we will keep the tax cut that was announced for people on normal incomes. But we don't think it's right to ask the people of Wolverhampton or Liverpool to pay for years and borrowing into the future to fund a tax cut for people who are already earning £150,000 a year. Now, Eamonn, I don't believe in class war or in setting one part of the country against another, but I do believe in fairness. And I don't think it's right to fund a tax cut in that way. I also think it's not how economic growth comes. It doesn't just come from the very wealthy. If we're going to get economic growth in the country, it comes from the efforts of everybody. And that's the way that we should view tax, and that's the way that we should view the fairness in our economy that we need.
Just whilst you're talking, I can see the corner, I think, of a Union Jack flag there. We saw all of you singing yesterday the national anthem with helpful prompt cards for those that weren't so familiar with the words. What's with this sudden change of,
Patriotism.
Patriotism, yes, adoption of these symbols. What's behind that?
Well, look, I think Labour's always been a patriotic party. It was Labour, for example, the Labour government after the war that helped establish NATO and the Western Alliance, which helps to keep us safe today. And I think everybody, no matter what your politics, was deeply moved by the passing of Her Majesty the Queen a couple of weeks ago. And it was right that we started our conference in the way that we did yesterday and sing the national anthem and remember the 70 years of service that the Queen gave to our country.
Then for the Queen, you won't be making a habit of that. We won't be getting used to this, will we?
Well, I don't know. I mean, this was a historic event. For your viewers watching, you'd have to be probably 80 years old or more to remember anybody other than the Queen in any real sense sitting on the throne. Certainly, I'm not young, and for anybody my age or younger, she's the only sovereign we've ever known. So. We saw it in the experience of the country over the past week. What a historic and moving moment. And including for people who might not always be huge fans of the monarchy, but whether you are or whether you're not, the historic importance of somebody who had served as Queen for so long touched the whole country, I think. And that's why it's quite right that we started our conference in that way.
The influence that this country has around the world. There's a bit of criticism that we haven't heard from the government yet, re the situation in Iran and the protests that there are there. They've now spread to London. What do you think that we should be coming out strong in this, or is there in effect anything that we can actually do? Why would Iran listen?
Well, I don't know whether they'll listen or not, but I think anybody watching is struck by the bravery of the women taken to the streets in Iran to stand up for their freedoms and their rights. And I think what they've done is incredibly brave. A young woman lost her life, because of what she was wearing a week or two ago. And now other people have lost their lives too. And when you see people, particularly in a country where people don't have the freedoms that we enjoy here, and you see them taking the brave stance to go out on the streets and stand up for freedom, it's an inspiring sight, and I can only bow to the bravery that I've seen from the women in Iran over the past week or so.
Pat McFadden, Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury. Have a good conference, Pat.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Stay with us. We're going to take a quick
me
break.
saying have a good
Go on.
conference
doesn't
mean to say I'm flag waving for Pat McFadden or the Labour
No,
Party. I would
just being
courteously
polite.
say
Yeah.
to anybody who's having the conference, have a good conference. Then there's Egypts out there who jump and say, see, he's so pro-Labour. I don't vote. I don't vote for anyone.
Not pro anyone.
I don't even know what
Hate
my
them all.
politics are. I treat them all exactly the same.
Yeah.
And, but here's also, Tom says, I'm on a different planet to you. Most of us can't afford to stay in hotels. And as for restaurants, McDonald's and fast food outlets, I'd rather see people working in industry instead of hospitality. Well, the fact remains, Tom, there's a massive jobs market in hospitality.
tourists.
And as regards hotels, they're not solely for people on holidays. They're for people who do business up and down this country. There are thousands and thousands of hotels, bed and breakfast, like 4 in a Bed on Channel 4. You see those small businesses trying to do what they do. Hard work. People have got to stay. People have got to have mobility around the country and stay in different places. And I would say, Tom, you are on a different planet. Back after the break.
Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK is looking windy and chilly to start, especially in the north, with rain clearing the far south. Let's take a look at the details. Well, across southwest England, after this morning's rain clears away to the south, there will be scattered showers around and some sunny intervals also. Feeling cold, especially in the moderate northwesterly wind. A band of heavy rain will clear southeast England through the morning, and this will be followed by showers that could be heavy at times. Across Wales, there will be scattered showers around, though there will be some sunny spells too. The best of the sunshine will be in the south. Sunny spells for most across the Midlands this morning, but also some showers feeding in on brisk northwesterly winds and feeling more autumnal, especially in the wind, with lower temperatures than over the weekend. For northeast England, it will be a windy day with showers at times, most frequent and heavy along the coast, feeling colder than recent days, especially in the wind and along the sea line. It's going to be a windy and cold day across Scotland with scattered showers at times. Some of these will be heavy, particularly along eastern coasts later. After overnight rain, it will be dry for a time across Northern Ireland. However, there will be some showers later, particularly for northern coastal regions, feeling cold, especially in the wind. So it will remain windy across the UK this afternoon with further scattered showers, though some sunny spells too. And that is how the weather is shaping up for you on this Monday morning.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
On radio and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's
News channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Keir Starmer attacks Truss's mini budget as the pound plummets to an all-time low against the dollar.
Good morning, it's 8 o'clock, it's Monday the 26th of September. You're listening to and watching Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster.
Leading the news this morning, Sir Keir Starmer has kicked off Labour's conference in Liverpool with a policy blitz. He's vowed to reverse Liz Truss's cut to the top rate of income tax and announced a plan to end the UK's dependence on fossil fuels by 2030.
It comes as the pound slumps to an all-time low against the US dollar, further fueling fears of an imminent recession.
Protesters have clashed with police outside the Iranian Embassy in London as demonstrations against the Islamic Republic spread around the world. 5 officers were seriously injured, 12 people have been arrested.
The official period of mourning observed by the royal family comes to an end today, 1 week after the Queen's funeral. This is after a new bombshell revelation surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in the wake of Brexit.
And you can join in any of our discussions, which you have been doing so far today, on Gary Neville. Gary Neville, the former footballer and commentator, there he is, front page of the Mirror today. And he's saying tax cuts for the rich are immoral. Roger Pline in with us, his scything tackle on this one. He said, is he having a laugh re-immoral tax cuts. This is somebody that comes from a background in which Premier League players earn 150 grand a week, not per year. If anything is immoral, that is.
Yeah, they could just donate some of their salaries and that would sort a lot of the problems out.
Well, a lot of them do. A lot of them do. They're often advised not to get publicity for it because they get damned if they do, damned if they don't. But I agree with you. I do think the salary structure, the payments with Premier League are
and their
immoral.
management, yeah. Your thoughts coming in?
Yes. If you had to support a football team, who would you support?
Chelsea.
Oh dear. Oh, that gave me a pain in my chest there
Because my
almost.
children were born in the hospital opposite, and they got given free Chelsea teddy bears as a leaving gift from the hospital.
No, that's
so
to
that's literally as much a connection I
induct
have
you
with
right
any
from the
football
beginning.
club in the
That's
world.
like bribery. That's to get those
I
children
don't have.
early.
I have no other connection.
No, I thought you were going to say something neutral, like Fulham, a sort of team that everybody
Well,
likes.
yeah, I'm kind of near Fulham, I suppose. So that's
Chelsea.
Brentford.
Brentford.
Yeah, Brentford's in Essex.
Brentford is where Bryden lives.
I quite like Brentford because they were, the underdog. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about football because it's not my comfort zone.
No, but that's not. But
makes me feel very uncomfortable.
But I like you when you're not in your
No, I know,
comfort zone.
but everyone who's a football fan thinks I'm an idiot now.
No, they don't. No, they don't at all. But they will after you hear later on. Isabel is going to tell us a story, and I ask you to stay tuned for this, of how she ate poo. True story. True story. Why? Find out after this. Well, when I say find out after this, I mean maybe
later in the show, maybe.
We'll keep it for the newspaper review.
Okay,
yeah?
all right, deal.
That's just after half.
Right, our top story this morning, the Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, will use Labour conference speech today to lay out Labour's plans for the economy, including its promise to reinstate that top rate of income tax.
Our political correspondent, Tom Harwood, we go to him. He's in Liverpool to tell us more. Tom.
Yes, at around midday today, the Shadow Chancellor, Bridget Phillipson, will give her speech to the Labour Party conference. This is, of course, in the wake of a pretty enormous few days when it comes to fiscal policy in the United Kingdom. The enormous tax cuts that were announced by the new Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, on Friday, and the market response. Of course, just overnight we've been seeing what has happened to the pound in US markets. It's gone further down. Perhaps that is exactly feeding in more to people suggesting that this is more to do with Bank of England policy than the mini budget policy, but clearly not a good fiscal outlook. And this is the context in which we will hear the Labour Party's proposals in terms of how they're going to deal with tax and spend, but also, crucially, growth. So the Labour Party suggesting that they will scrap the plans to reduce the top rate, or indeed abolish that additional rate of tax, but crucially keep the basic rate cut that was announced as well. That clearly would be a politically difficult thing to do, to go into a general election promising to raise the basic rate of tax. It's to some extent a political trap that may well have been laid down from the Conservative Party there. It's a very tricky balancing act that the Labour Party have to perform here, suggesting that they want to be seen to be more pro-business, pro-market perhaps, than previous iterations of the Labour leadership. But at the same time, they've got a base here who doesn't like the idea of tax cuts. It's a fine line to walk. But of course, this is not the first speech that we've seen at Labour Party conference. The conference kicked off yesterday, and one of the first speeches we saw was from the deputy leader of the Labour Party, the firebrand orator, Angela Rayner. She seemed to go down rather well in the hall, and this is what some of those watching had to make of it.
Great speech. From the heart. No notes or anything like that.
It's got a very good way of explaining things and in a way that you feel that you're involved.
It was excellent. Yeah, brilliant.
Favourite bit?
The sleaze merchants, the Tories. That made me laugh.
They see her on camera and they think, but then you see her in real life and you're like, wow, that was really quite good actually, yeah. My attention span is quite low, so the fact I was watching is quite impressive for me.
I would like to have heard a bit more reference to proportional representation. I think that's going to be the biggest issue this year, and I think, but yeah, I mean, the speech was great, it really was.
Yes, it was just one thing after another that was just
what we want, what we need.
Do you think the nickname Level Down Liz is going to stick?
Well, I think there'll be a few names that'll stick. Yeah, that'll be one of them.
A bit of a flavour there from some of the people in the audience. But of course, it's not just about what the audience thinks. It's not just about what those Labour delegates, those people who have been voted by their constituency Labour parties to attend and indeed to vote here at the Labour Party conference. A lot of what we'll be hearing from the Shadow Chancellor a little bit later on today will be aimed not just at those in the hall, but out at the country.
OK, thank you very much indeed, Tom. Tom's our political correspondent. Cindy Yu in the studio. She's broadcast editor at The Spectator. And Tom's talking about, you know, what's being said at the conference. So far, Cindy, we see for the first time, I suppose, in years, a very big difference between Labour and the Conservatives. I mean, certainly since Jeremy Corbyn's time anyway.
Well, I mean, with the big caveat that Liz Truss seems to be happy to borrow as much as Jeremy Corbyn is happy to borrow, but her rhetoric, her policies in terms of tax cuts is very, very different to Labour, and I think Keir Starmer is really comfortable with that. It's interesting that on the weekend some Labour sources were talking to the papers and saying how they found Boris Johnson such a slippery customer to deal with because Boris Johnson had his fingers in all of the pies, so you couldn't pin down his political opinions. Whereas with Liz Truss, very easy to do that. And so you can see Labour coming out and saying reinstating the top rate of tax, because that is a very clear dividing line between the two of them. You know, why would you cut tax for the rich unless you're Liz Truss and that's a certain ideology, and Keir Starmer says we're a different ideology. And you see them going on the green stuff, and that's very, very clear blue water. So I think, you know, Labour is actually for the first time, as you say, Eamonn, quite comfortable with the position that they're able to carve out for themselves. I think the only difference, as I say, is that Liz Truss is happy to borrow as much as Jeremy Corbyn was happy to borrow in his wildest dreams.
Which is quite extraordinary when you think about it, and also when we think about the cost of borrowing. And I suppose the big question in all of this is the free market, and, you know, can we afford to do it? And will this work, this gamble that everybody seems to agree this is? It could work, it could be wonderful. But the market seems a bit wobbly about it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the markets closed on Friday with the pound at 1.09 to the dollar, which is quite low. You know, considering that 10 years ago it was £1 to $2. You know, it's almost halved. And today, there's the markets open in Asia is now to 1.03. And
that's the lowest it ever has been. And I just wonder, I mean, a lot of people would try and argue that this is because actually the dollar's doing really, really well, and this is to do with America's energy security and also the way it's been handling interest rates there. Is there some truth in that? I mean, is it a bit of both of those things, that the pound's not doing well, but the dollar is also doing particularly?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. When you look at the dollar compared to other world currencies, which are also, you know, you can see a dollar strengthening story going on over there. So it's not just a pound story, but the pounds plummeting over the last few days is specifically about this not budget event, right?
It's interesting to listen to you talk, because it really is now about policy, showing differences between the two parties, because we've got two leaders of these parties, bit of a question mark over Liz Truss from a lot of people in terms of her persona and performances. But Keir Starmer, here we have actually a very uncharismatic man who's actually holding strong and doing well, obviously based on policy alone, one would have thought.
And I think based on the Tories not doing well. You know, I think Partygate, the internal party wranglings over the last year, then this really poisonous leadership race where the Labour Party was literally able to create an attack video based on what Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss were saying about each other in the Conservative governments, successive Conservative governments. And now you've got this Prime Minister that seems to be only looking out for a certain part of the population. So I think it is also because the Conservative Party is not doing well. And if Keir Starmer were to face a more charismatic opponent, like Boris Johnson, within the party, like, for example, West Streeting, his shadow health secretary, who's been making the rounds a little bit in the last few weeks in terms of talking to the papers, you know, I think I would be wondering how well he would do. But for now, you know, he's in place. He seems to have strengthened his faction of the party. He's making the most out of the Tory weakness. But as you say, is about, you know, if this gamble pays off for Liz Truss,
but I notice it's
you know,
interesting you talk about opponents and you mentioned West Streeting, fair enough, but you didn't mention Keir Starmer's deputy, Angela Rayner.
I think Angela Rayner is a force to be reckoned with. You know, she's we were just talking about how charismatic she is. You know, she has very strong left-wing views, calling Tories scum, saying that she's never kissed one, all this sort of stuff. But she is very, very charismatic, and she also comes from a certain background where she can claim to have a certain, diversity that Keir Starmer definitely can't, being a teenage mother and all that sort of stuff. But I think for now, there is no leadership race on. I think she will be a force to be reckoned with if Keir Starmer is in more trouble. But Labour doesn't really get rid of leaders before an election, actually. So I think they will stick with him.
Speaking of new leaders, Italy waking up this morning, Giorgia Meloni to be the first ever female prime minister there. Lots of questions about the direction of the country. Is it as a far-right position that she's assuming? Because she's leading a coalition of the right, which is where some of the concerns come from. But she's sort of a centre-right, would you say? I mean, I know your paper has interviewed her recently.
Yes. So The Spectator interviewed Meloni last month, and from what I can gather, the accusations seem to be based on the roots of her and her, party. They were founded in the 2010s, but quite a few of the original founders were members of neo-fascistic groups. She herself says that she was a member of that group because she was anti-corruption in her local city, Sicily, and so she wanted to join a fringe group in order to put pressure on the establishment. So I'm not an Italian politics expert, but you can kind of see, with the kind of domestic politics we've seen, why people join fringe parties in order to put pressure on establishment views. Her views currently are very tough on immigration, on illegal immigration in particular, but then again, Italy has a different situation than we do. They are literally separated by a sea from...
Africa,
yeah, absolutely, and they get hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants every year, which the EU, is happy to let them take because Germany is not there. She believes in family values, so she really, really strongly believes in kind of dual parenting. She grew up in a single-parent household herself, which is really interesting, but she also doesn't think that gay people, for example, should be able to adopt. So, it depends on how far right you think that is.
Yeah.
But she believes in very traditional conservative family values.
Well, Cindy, fascinating to hear your perspective on things. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed. Cindy Yu is broadcast editor at The Spectator. Thank you.
Now, protesters outside the Iranian Embassy in London have now clashed with police, injuring 5 police officers and 12 people being arrested.
Well, these demonstrations are part of a wave of condemnation right around the world of the Iranian regime following the death of Mahsa Amini, who died after being arrested by the country's morality police for not covering her hair with a headscarf.
Well, let's speak to our reporter, Ellie Costello, who joins us now from the Iranian Embassy, where those protests were taking place. Interesting to see, as these protests spread around the world, that they have arrived here in the UK, Ellie.
Yes, good morning to you both. I'm outside the Iranian Embassy in West London. I wanted to show you the scene, just a few signs of what happened here yesterday. If you look over my right shoulder now, you can see heavy police presence. There's vans and cars outside the embassy. You can see this big black box just outside the embassy, which we actually saw several protesters get on top of yesterday, waving that national flag, the former national flag of Iran that was in place before 1979. And if you look over at the building, you can actually see splashes of red paint where the protesters were throwing balloons filled with red paint yesterday, several of them hitting the outside of the Iranian embassy. And you can actually see on the, I think that's the 3rd floor, there's a smashed window where potentially one of those balloons actually hit through the glass. And there are still police officers outside. You can also see a white banner with graffiti written in Farsi on it outside. Just a few signs of the kind of disruption and the violent clashes that we saw here yesterday afternoon between protesters and the police. We saw scenes of angry people pushing against police officers who had created a line in front of the embassy trying to protect the building. Many people chanting death to the Islamic Republic. And we did see one clip on social media of 2 police officers wrestling a man to the ground who looked as though he had broken through that police line. Now, the Metropolitan Police say that masonry, bottles and other projectiles were thrown at police yesterday, and Scotland Yard has confirmed that 5 police officers have been seriously injured in those violent clashes, not just here, but also at the Islamic Centre for England, which is in Maida Vale, which is where those protests went to yesterday after they started here in Kensington. Now, we know that those injuries sustained by police officers do include broken bones, and 12 people so far have been arrested on suspicion of violent disorder. Now, these protests were expected yesterday. We've seen a wave of protests across the world after the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini in Iran on the 16th of September. Now, she was tortured, her family say, in police custody after she was arrested by the so-called morality police for showing her hair through a hijab. Now, there have been really powerful scenes, pictures and videos of women in Iran burning their hijabs and cutting their hair in the street in protest against these strict restrictions on personal freedom. Women have had really strict dress code laws in Iran for the past, well, more than 40 years now. We've seen these scenes across the world, and they have now come to London. Now, the Metropolitan Police have said that they respect the right for peaceful protest, but they will not tolerate unprovoked attacks on their opposants. And they have said they'll be looking through CCTV in the next few days, and they will be making further arrests for those who have committed the most serious of offences. But they do know that passions are inflamed. They know that tensions are high, and we will see very heavy police presence here in the next few days as they try and keep the public and the officers safe from any further harm.
OK, Ellie, thanks very much indeed. Always such a shame when police officers who are there doing their own job, trying to manage a crowd, end up, being hurt. They've still got families to go home to.
And I think then that loses a lot of sympathy from you, the general public, on that sort of thing. Give us your views. You know what to do. It's gbviews@gbnews.com or even UK. But you see, I rely on somebody sticking up posters around here with that on. Look at that one. Rolled up.
Oh,
rolled up.
Screwed up.
Screwed up, which has screwed me up.
Well, luckily it's written on the screen, so next time just read the screen.
Well, my eyes can't read that
right,
far. I can't go that far.
Look, the time's coming up to 8:20. We're going to bring you up to date with the latest headlines. We were just discussing it with Cindy. Far-right party Brothers of Italy is now projected to win the Italian election with 26% of the vote, leaving the way clear for a right-wing alliance. Their leader, Giorgia Meloni, will become the country's first female prime minister, and she's now calling for unity to help confront the country's many problems.
2 teenagers have been charged with murder after 15-year-old Carrie McLean was stabbed outside a school in Huddersfield. Police say the male suspects, aged 15 and 16, have also been charged with possession of a bladed article. They'll appear before Leeds magistrates today.
Japan will hold its first state funeral in over half a century for its late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Today, Mr. Abe was assassinated in early July while speaking at a political event. The cost of the funeral is estimated to be over £10 million, sparking protests due to the cost of living crisis.
Italian.
Giorgia Meloni.
Yeah, who's about to be Prime Minister thing. Was she ever a pop star? Isn't there a Georgie Morricone or a Georgie Maloney?
You're asking the wrong person, I don't know.
There's somebody in the 80s who was in the charts.
She's 45, so she'd have to have been
Morricone,
under 10 in the 80s.
Georgie, there was a song, Together in Electric Dreams. Who sang that? My producer Charlie's telling me, what's what? Giorgio Moroder. It's practically the same.
There you go.
Together in Electric Dreams. That was a certain type of pop.
Yeah.
It was called electric pop or something.
It was. Tinny pop.
It was.
No, I don't think it's the same one. Just got a hunch.
Well,
yeah.
Well, anyway, it's close. It's close.
Look, it's a week now since the Queen's state funeral, and of course that saw the world's leaders and the public unite to pay their respects, and the royal family's official mourning has now come to a close.
OK, what does that mean for the new reign of King Charles III? Let's go to our royal reporter, Cameron Walker. Cameron is outside Buckingham Palace today. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Eamonn. Yes, we all saw those scenes of the royal family having to grieve very publicly in the run-up to Her Majesty the Queen's funeral, and they were visibly emotional at times this time last week. This week, or the week just gone, it was their chance to privately grieve as a family and mourning the head of their family, Her Majesty the Queen. And I was actually saying all of last week that I don't expect that members of the royal family would be taking part in official engagements this week. But it turns out that wasn't the case. I was very surprised to see that the Prince and Princess of Wales actually went to the Guildhall in Windsor to thank staff and volunteers who had helped during Her Majesty the Queen's committal service at St George's Chapel last Monday. The Earl of Wessex also went to Estonia and Germany to meet troops. That was a long-standing commitment that he had before Her Majesty the Queen passed away. And the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, went to Portsmouth to meet sailors and naval ratings who had taken part in the procession of Her Majesty the Queen's funeral. So lots of events going on for the royal family last week. Perhaps they were inspired by the Queen's sense of duty. Now, today, a question mark remains over the staff at Clarence House, the 100 plus or so staff at the former Prince of Wales's former residence, as well as the Queen's personal staff, and what is going to be happening to their jobs. There's reported that there's a consultation period for those jobs, but we understand that King Charles wants a slimmed down monarchy, and perhaps in the weeks, months and years ahead we will start to see that come to fruition. We understand there was also meant to be a couple of royal tours taking place this autumn. It's unclear if those tours are going to be going ahead, but of course King Charles now is head of the Commonwealth, so perhaps he'll be very keen to shore up support for the British monarchy and in the Commonwealth abroad. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw royal tours take place to Commonwealth realms in the coming months, and this is all coming as Prince Harry is reportedly wanting to make last-minute changes to his memoir, expected to be out by the end of the year. It's understood that he was taken aback by perhaps the level of support for the British monarchy here during Her Majesty the Queen's funeral and the love for King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla. But it might be too late. He's already been paid £17.5 million of the £35 million deal for this book, and if the publishers want it out in time for US Thanksgiving or Christmas, the book might already be at the printers. But as for royal mourning, it officially ends today, and flags above royal residences will return to full mast at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Cameron, thank you very much indeed. Coming up, consumer expert Kate Hardcastle will be telling you why she thinks the new stamp duty policy will do little to help you if you're buying a house. How does that work out? How does that work? She'll tell you.
Tell us, Kate. First of all, though, here's the forecast. Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK is looking windy and chilly to start, especially in the north, with rain clearing the far south. Let's take a look at the details. Well, across southwest England, after this morning's rain clears away to the south, there will be scattered showers around and some sunny intervals also. Feeling cold, especially in the moderate northwesterly wind. A band of heavy rain will clear southeast England through the morning, and this will be followed by showers that could be heavy at times. Across Wales, there will be scattered showers around, though there will be some sunny spells too. The best of the sunshine will be in the south. Sunny spells for most across the Midlands this morning, but also some showers feeding in on brisk northwesterly winds and feeling more autumnal, especially in the wind, with lower temperatures than over the weekend. For northeast England, it will be a windy day with showers at times, most frequent and heavy along the coast, feeling colder than recent days, especially in the wind and along the sea line. It's going to be a windy and cold day across Scotland with scattered showers at times. Some of these will be heavy, particularly along eastern coasts later. After overnight rain, it will be dry for a time across Northern Ireland. However, there will be some showers later, particularly for northern coastal regions, feeling cold, especially in the wind. So it will remain windy across the UK this afternoon with further scattered showers, though some sunny spells too. And that is how the weather is shaping up for you on this Monday morning.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
On radio,
And online.
we're proud to be the People's Channel, Britain's
News channel.
On the Mark Stein Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Stein Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me! And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 8:29. How are you this Monday morning?
I'm
Let
all
us
right,
know.
how are you?
I'm all right.
Good, thanks for asking.
Yeah,
All
well,
good.
I know how you are because I just heard you sighing and we both had that 8:30 thing.
Dip.
So I just thought, how's everyone else feeling this Monday morning?
Well, actually,
Energised,
now that
ready
you
to
ask
start
me-
the week?
Well, I'm not very good.
No.
But I don't like talking about it. I don't like it all being about me.
No, but how
and
bad are
moaning.
you?
I'm so bad I'm going to have an operation
Right.
on Wednesday.
This is bad.
Yeah.
So how long are you going to be off? A little while to recover.
Well, it'll certainly be a week, won't it?
I'm going to miss
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
Well, we
just
wish
say it,
you.
but
We
say
wish
that
you.
to
were-
all the boys.
No, well, it won't be the same without you, Eamonn. So
Yeah.
you get better soon,
Certainly
please.
won't be, you're right there.
I'll get all these messages from you, though. I know the days after going,
You're going to bring me grapes and look
I
and see
will.
it.
But you always get quite morbid, so I'm expecting you to think that you're on your deathbed come Wednesday night.
This is the last
Yeah,
time
that's
we're
last
together.
time you were unwell. You were sort of saying, just so you know, it's been wonderful working with you. Don't start
I
that
didn't
again.
say that.
Yes, you did.
Did I?
I have
Seriously?
the evidence on my phone.
I said it was wonderful.
Yes. Yeah,
Must
you
be
said
the
really,
drugs.
it was the drugs.
It's been drugs. 8:30's the time. Still to come on today's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Does she have the authority? At 8:45, we'll be speaking to the one and the only Jackie Weaver as she takes part in a new Channel 4 reality show, Make Me Prime Minister. She was the one
yeah,
from
you have to
that.
explain
Yeah,
to
yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah. So that was the, well, what would you call it? Parish
Council meeting, yeah.
It went viral when the guy said, you don't go, get off here, and
Yes.
they had a big fight. Anyway,
Yes.
Jackie Weaver's coming on.
Good. And we'll meet the grandmother who's determined to look as good in her 70s as she did in her 20s.
And that's without surgery.
Yeah, right. So
Fitness.
the way she dresses, the way she does her hair, the way her body is, and she'll be giving you fitness tips.
See, I already don't look like I looked in my 20s, let alone when I'm in my 70s. To look like you're in your 20s when you're in your
Yes.
70s is, that's...
Well, maybe whoever wrote that was exaggerating.
Maybe, yeah,
Maybe.
prone to that. Right, let us know your thoughts this morning, let us know how you're doing, or indeed get involved in any of the subjects we're talking about.
Okay, 25% of you, 1 in 4, are concerned about the cost of living when it comes to moving home. That's a poll by the Yorkshire Building Society.
Well, this comes after the government announced a new cut to stamp duty in Friday's mini-budget, and we can speak now to consumer and retail expert Kate Hardcastle. Lovely to see you, Kate. My understanding of this stamp duty plan is to really try and get things moving at the bottom end of the housing market with first-time buyers, with the hope that it would then, you know, I suppose the opposite of trickle down, filter up and benefit everybody, but some scepticism about how much we'll all actually benefit from this.
Well, good morning to you both. It's a joy listening to your banter before I'm about to come on, you know, and then I have to be all serious to talk about the important
Sorry,
things like money.
I know.
Absolutely. The stamp duty has caused quite controversy and lots of conversations on social media. There are people, in fairness, who might be mid-buying process where this is a huge relief and could mean that they're getting thousands of pounds back into their budget allocated towards moving house that they might be able to then put towards bills, which are creating a huge concern for a lot of people, or indeed house renovations, etc. But in terms of stimulating the opportunity, in terms of giving people the opportunity to think that maybe house ownership is within reach, yes, there is more opportunity around the stamp duty. So for first-time buyers, there's no stamp duty now due on the first £425,000 of a property. And I think that is certainly of interest to people who've got the budget well in the bank. But for a lot of people, what the outcome is and what they're saying on social is just doesn't make any difference. By the time I've got to the stamp duty, it means I've already secured a mortgage. It means I've already found a way of paying the bills. It means that I'm perhaps not concerned about all of the rising costs that I might have to become a house owner. So I think there's that realism. If we couple into that as well, just before Christmas, there's a big piece of research done by Zopa that was suggesting that over 60% of parents were helping their adult children in some way when it came to house ownership, mortgage payments or rent. So I think there's got to be a bit of a reality check that, as a lot of people have suggested, if we want that stimulus in the property market, does a lot of it actually have to be down to affordable entry-level housing and the stimulation of how much we've got available and how much we need, i.e. a big building surge, rather than just this cut on stamp duty, which in fairness, in Conservative governments, we've seen before.
Kate, here's what I think. It doesn't matter, right? So you've got no stamp duty until 425. But anything before that, so say you're looking to spend 250 or 300, surely the seller knows that you've got more money to play with then, and they biff it up by another 50 grand. In other words, if the house is 250, do they not just simply say, oh, great, we'll get 50 more profit out of this, and nobody's any better off? Well, they're better off than the sellers, but the buyers aren't.
Astute as ever, Eamonn. I think absolutely we're going to see some of that, because I think that we're going to have property owners who know that they're for buyers, and we know the market is tight. We know there's not as much housing. We know that a lot of properties are going above and beyond what's suggested. I've heard many times of actually applications going through and they're being halted by the mortgage provider because the mortgage provider don't think the house is worth it because the price has become so inflated. So I think if there's extra change in the market, what you're suggesting is that some sellers might take the opportunity to raise the price a little bit to get the benefit of that. I think that could potentially happen. What I think we're looking at is this going to stimulate the opportunity of house ownership in the UK? And I think once you've managed to get the cash for a deposit and the security of a mortgage, I know that you can go in and pay all your bills. Probably, while stamp duty will help alleviate a little bit at the end of that, you're only paying it when the deal's gone through. So I don't think it's going to be the make or break for many people.
OK, Kate Hardcastle, thank you very much for explaining all of that. It's really depressing, I think. I speak as somebody who's trying to move house and have been trying for several months. We've missed out on a couple of houses, and in that time, the cost of a mortgage has increased significantly to the point where we're almost thinking we might have missed the boat. We might not be able to move at all.
It is such a stressful operation to move house.
Well, to try and get all the ducks in a row in time, not only to have an offer on your house, but to find a house that you want to offer on, and then for that chain not to fall through, and to get a mortgage rate approved that, you know, you can afford with the interest rates going up like they are.
And
well,
then,
awful.
And then packing.
Well,
that's worse.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet since having children, and we've got so much clobber now.
I know.
Oh, who would do it?
I'm a bit of a hoarder.
Yeah, I know.
You a hoarder?
Clothes hoarder. Got a lot of clothes, but then it's the job.
You need them. You need them,
Isabel. My husband that, would you?
I know you can't keep coming on being dressed like this. You need more nicer clothes.
More dresses.
All the time.
Anyway, look, we've been told very persistently we need to go to a break, so we better. We'll be back after this with Dawn and Biggins.
What do you listen to them for?
I'm a good girl.
Oh, because it's Dawn and Biggins, isn't it?
Yes.
Right, good. That's good. After this.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
On radio.
And online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me! And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
We're talking what's in the papers, and one of the stories in the newspapers today is, now we've got to tell you, I've started, so I'm going to finish.
Here we go.
I'm going to finish, right? So we had this story about Chris Packham, the environmentalist, and he talks about...
There it is.
Where? So he's brought out a calendar, and it's to educate you about animals' poo. So what animals could be intruding on your gardens or whatever it happens to be. So Isabel then just says to me, I've tasted poo, you know. I thought, what's coming
I've had
next?
a very strange upbringing.
But this story, this is very interesting as to why she tasted poo.
Yes. Well, we were on safari, a walking safari, where you stop and you look at the flora and the fauna and an awful lot of the poo. And we examined elephant dung and rhino dung to see what they eat, and we were offered a sample to taste, and it was very sweet.
Why would you do that, Isabel?
I think it was just part of the immersion into the experience, but also just, you know, my family are all into conservation and wildlife.
But
so
you haven't heard of E. coli and various
we all
things.
live to tell the tale. But I also learned how you can spot predator poo, because when you're on safari, if you see little white piles of dung,
Yes.
that usually means it's a hyena or a lion or a leopard, because it's the calcium from the bones. It's in the faeces.
Which country
Didn't
were you
taste
in?
that one. Mostly Southern Africa, a little bit of East Africa,
Right.
so Botswana.
But then, could I ask you, when I was a kid, on the pavement, there was quite a lot of white dog poo, but they weren't eating bones, were they?
Well,
Maybe they were eating
food,
bones.
yeah,
They
yeah.
were. I
Do you
think
remember
they-
white
butchers-
dog poo, which
yeah.
you rarely see now?
You never see it now, no.
No, I don't know why.
No. I
It's a rarity.
I think it was the
Fascinating
calcium.
conversation.
I know. Sorry, poo done it was
Poo.
the headline.
Oh.
Poo done it.
Very
Yeah.
good. So that was a good story.
Yes.
Now, they could always in politics be talking about a lot of poo, but the Labour Party conference is all going on in Liverpool. And we've got a story from the Telegraph, Christopher, here, where Peter Mandelson, former guru of the Labour Party, says Britons now think it is safe to vote Labour.
Well, I think this is interesting. I like Peter Mandelson very much. And I think it's good, because I think he's what he's saying is, in the article, is they have to go now to the middle. You know, they can't go left or right. They have to go down that straight line in politics. And I think he's absolutely right. I mean, he's a very clever man. Interestingly enough, I didn't realise this, he also backed plans to bring back to replace the Royal Yacht Britannia. So it was something that, of course, the Queen was devastated by when she lost that wonderful ship. And I think it was a very bad thing to get rid of it. But anyway, he was had plans in place to bring back.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that he wants to reinstate the top-rated tax and then bring back the ship and fund it with the
No, I don't think that'll be on the cards.
I don't think you'll ever see that again.
No, you won't. You won't, sadly. But what's it doing now? Just lying there?
Well, where is it?
Up in a museum
Scotland,
somewhere,
isn't it?
maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, Edinburgh or somewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Where is Britannia? Do you know?
I don't know.
I think it's in Scotland somewhere.
I think it must be in Scotland.
You can have lunch on it, I think.
Yeah,
Nice.
right, okay.
Yeah, that sounds very nice.
Dawn, we go to the Sun, and, you know, in line with the protests we're seeing in Iran and in London about the treatment of women, what have you got to report here?
Yeah, this is our. It's, as I said, the Iran story is just horrific. What happens to women in some countries? But this is obviously we've got the World Cup in Qatar coming up this winter, and this is a warning to female England fans travelling out there that if you are assaulted or raped, you are going to be the one that's responsible, because sex outside of marriage is punishable, sometimes, occasionally, I think, by death sentence in some of the countries. But you are the one responsible for it, even though you have been raped or sexually assaulted. And this is Qatar's strict Islamic code, outlaws all sexual contact between unmarried couples. And there are 100 prosecutions a year for it, and with sentences ranging from 7 years in jail to a public flogging. So if you are a female football fan and you're travelling to Qatar and you are sexually assaulted, and bear in mind there were 72 sexual assaults during the last the Euro 2020 in this country, there's a high chance it might happen to some women out there. But they're warning you, if you go to the police to report that, you are treated as the guilty party.
Right, you're a big football fan as well. You're also a woman. What's your view? What's your advice?
I wouldn't go. I honestly wouldn't go. I think we should not be holding the World Cup there. And David Beckham, even though he was a Q hero, queuing for the Queen, I think his support of Qatar and his publicising the country makes him a zero again, because I just think it's horrific the way they treat women. It's horrific the way they treat gay people. I mean, there is no equality out there. I mean, Biggie, you probably know more than I am. I mean,
well, the gay situation is appalling.
Would you go? I mean,
No, I wouldn't. Yeah. I mean, you know, Tom Daly did a very interesting programme recently on the Commonwealth and, you know, how should they be going to these games? And, of course, the answer is no. I mean, it's the way they treat, and it's hypocrisy, too. I mean, you know, there was hotels, they own hotels in England run by gay people. And yet, if you're out there, you could be stoned to death. Yeah. I mean, it is terrifying what can happen.
So, would you guys down tools then as regards the World Cup? Do you think it's wrong David Beckham has been a poster boy for this World Cup?
Yeah, and I think it's all to do with money.
Yeah.
Yeah, well...
Well, this is the virtue signalling of taking the knee and the rainbow laces, etc., etc. Fine, all for that. But then you go to Qatar and you pay... because of all the money you're earning out there. I'm sorry, it's the hypocrisy again involved in this. Okay. I just don't think it should be going on.
Yeah, I agree.
Should we talk about Prince Harry, Christopher?
Yes.
He's trying to tone it down, finally.
Well, I think it's a very difficult situation. I mean, he's been paid a huge amount of money. He's been paid half his huge fee up front.
For his book.
Yeah, for his book. And I don't think the editors are going to be that, oh, yes, of course, we'll cut all those things, because those are the things they think will sell the book. And I think he's in a very strange position, because also I think they were going to put it out for Thanksgiving in America, so it really must be printed already. So it means they'd have to actually get rid of pulp a lot of those books.
You see, this comes back to me being, you know, liking a happy ending. I see this as a good sign. I see this as, you know, I'm hopeful that, you know, he's going to tone it down. The brothers will be reunited. Maybe they've learnt their lesson.
Of course,
it's not going to destroy the monarchy.
Director, just cut back to me, please, here, please. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
A rainbow.
What?
It's a pig flying.
Pig flying. That's what it is. Pigs
You're just
may
such
fly.
a cynic.
No, I'm not.
No, you
I'm
are.
absolutely not.
And you're so stubborn. You just assume nobody could ever make up, you know. But I like to think.
I have sources. I know there's going to be no making up. There's going to be no
Ooh.
making up. Yeah.
Well, the trouble is they did affect him when he was over here because he couldn't wear his ER on his uniform. He couldn't wear his uniform. Yeah. Only once that was given permission for the lying in state.
It's not about how he feels. It's got about Kate and William, how they feel as well, and how they have been slighted and how they have not been apologised to as well. So Miss Meghan can't fly in here on her broomstick and then fly out again and create all that hassle and whatever, because we're not finished with her yet. No matter what Harry does.
They were well behaved when they came over.
Isabel, she's riding it down now as we speak. You know, there'll be a whole spate of with Queen.
I love the way
Oprah
you
Winfrey.
sit on the fence on this subject, Eamonn.
Well, it's quite obvious to people.
I know.
And my experience of all of this is Netflix and people and minor stars in America and how they're treated. And Biggins, you'll have experienced it in your time, prima donnas, and how they're enabled, how, you know, certain people in the industry, how I want my dressing room painted white.
Well, there's this line, she wanted to be Beyoncé in the UK, didn't she? Because it was a mixture of celebrity and royalty.
No, I think she thought everybody was going to bow down to her, and I think that she thought that, you know, she would become queen or something. I mean, you know, I don't think she realised that they were very low down on the pecking order, or Harry was. I mean, you know, Harry is I think, what is he now? Is he fifth in line?
He is fifth or sixth.
Yes, so if all the children died, he'd become king, but that's not going to happen.
Well, you never know, don't you?
You never know, I suppose.
Heaven forfend.
But I don't think he's going to cut the book, anyway.
No, he's getting plenty of banknotes for the book. There is various banks in the post office now are saying to people, get them out from under the bed.
Did you know this? I mean, this is my public service broadcasting bit this morning. I didn't even know this. The Daily Telegraph today. Post office today, a brace for a last-minute rush as people deposit paper banknotes this week. Paper £20 and £50 notes will no longer be able to be used as payment from this Friday.
But you still can have the plastic ones.
You get the plasticky ones.
Right,
the
so
ones
it's not to say 20 quid notes are out.
No.
It's
the old.
Yeah, I didn't know that you could still use those.
But it was this Friday it finishes, and I didn't know that. Not that I've got any, obviously. But I mean, it's the plasticky ones. You know, the ones that really stick together, so you're never quite sure if you're handing one or two over. But the shocking part of the story, there are £6 billion worth in paper £20 notes and £8 billion worth in paper £50 notes still in circulation.
Okay.
It's a lot of money out there.
A lot of money. Dawn, thank you very much indeed. Christopher, really appreciate it. Always nice hearing from you both. And that's it, done for today, because we're moving on to find out what it takes to become a Prime Minister, because Channel 4 have a series coming out which tries to show you just that. It puts a group of people through their paces in an attempt to demonstrate what it takes to be the PM.
Yeah, and who would want to be the PM? What a tough job it is at the moment. Make Me Prime Minister starts tomorrow night at 9:15, and you may recognise one of the candidates because Jackie Weaver was the local parish councillor who went viral from Hanforth Parish Council, whose Zoom meeting really captured everyone's imagination.
Yes.
You remember that,
Yeah,
Biggins?
I do.
Yes, well, she's keen to prove she does have the authority. Let's take a look.
These 12 ordinary Brits think they could be Prime Minister.
People who graduate at Eton should not be running the country.
Do you know what? I quite like being in the hot seat. Judged by these political heavyweights, only one can succeed.
This is what you will be remembered for.
It's all a bit theory, isn't it?
No. This purple rosette. It's very UKIP, isn't it? Are we going for the missile?
Yes, we're going for the missile.
I think Darius thought it went quite well. It did not.
I think we've heard enough.
You are not ready to be a Prime Minister.
Make Me Prime Minister. Coming soon to Channel 4 and All 4.
You see people like Alistair Campbell there, who's going to be one of the judges, so it's a bit like The Apprentice. There is Jackie. Jackie, we're not going to ask you how you did, and don't tell us, don't spoil anything with that. But was the inauguration, were the trials you had to go through more difficult than you thought or not? Good morning.
Good morning, Eamonn. Oh my goodness, yes they were. I mean, every day was a new adventure.
Having just sat and watched the recent sort of public contest between Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss, do you have some sympathy for what they've described as the longest job interview in history?
Oh goodness, yes. And I think also, in the intro it describes Alistair Campbell as a political heavyweight. I think Only when you have been scrutinised by him do you really understand just how heavy that weight is. You might think that what you said was intelligent until he plays it back to you and you realise, I'm really not as smart as I thought I was.
But tell me, Jackie, so are you still in your council? Do you still hold office?
Oh, gosh, yeah. I still do my day job, but I don't actually work for a council. I work for an organisation that in turn helps and supports 234 councils in Cheshire. So there's kind of like one of me in all of the old Shire counties. So there's about 43 of us across the country.
Well, Jackie, tell me this. What's it like? I mean, you had the whole incident at the council and you went viral, you went worldwide and all of that. Now you've got this telly programme. How are you coping with the attention?
I think it helps when you have a very down-to-earth family and, of course, a day job because people treat you the same as they always did. And that is really grounding. Yeah, the family I'm still jacking. I think that's what makes a big difference.
Remember the name of the man on your Zoom meeting that you had that ding-dong with. Have you ever spoken to him about all of this? I mean, he came out of it looking terrible, didn't he? I mean, what was
many of them did, in fact, resign a little bit later, not necessarily because of that particular meeting, but some people just don't want reconciliation, and some people are not prepared to kind of look at an alternative position. So I can't say we have spoken.
Laugh at himself. Could he see the ridiculous in all of it?
No.
That makes it all the funnier, doesn't it? Oh,
I suspect if he could, then we wouldn't have that problem. But no, I don't think there's any introspection there at all.
Jackie, we suspect it's the programme that you're in, Make Me Prime Minister, is very like a number of those challenge programmes, probably quite akin to The Apprentice. Was there a task or whatever you were given that was particularly trying?
Oh, for me, I think the most interesting and exciting one was the one where, and I think it was in the clip, where we were looking at whether or not we needed to go for the nuclear option. And I think that you start off with something like that. It feels like a game, but the more you get drawn into it, the more you start to feel that you're actually making that decision, and it became incredibly real. Even very tense, and the idea that somebody might actually have to make that decision is really scary.
But will you look with the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and somebody may have to make that decision?
I can only say I'm glad it won't be me.
Yeah, I suppose so.
And what do you make of the current Prime Minister, out of interest, seeing as she's just recently got the job and it's been quite a few weeks for her?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the whole way it was played out, I just feels wrong. I mean, what was the point of doing all those hustings in public, and yet the public have no say in who is the Prime Minister? What was the point of that? And ultimately, I don't feel either of them came out of it particularly well. It kind of felt almost like a kind of presidential election where you don't get to vote for the president. So,
But at home, people will get a chance to vote for you, Jackie. They'll get to know you even better. And there'll be a whole wave of requests for you as your celebrity grows. And we'd like to invite you on. I know it's a long way. We'll do you on Zoom. Or if you're ever in London, come down and review the papers for us. We'll get rid of Biggins or somebody like that.
I would love to. I'd love to.
Fabulous.
That would be lovely. That would be really lovely. Jackie, we look forward to seeing how you do in a real life scenario, but certainly you bring a lot of character into our politics, and it'll be lovely to see you in action. Lovely talking to you.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to see you on that programme.
Oh, stop it.
No, seriously, I'd love to see someone giving you a really big grilling.
Conflict resolution.
Yeah, exactly.
Conflict
There is no
resolution.
resolution. It's your way up the highway.
Yeah. I think that Alistair Campbell, he gets stuck into me
Oh,
when
yeah,
I'd
you'd
say
have
that.
Yeah, it'd be like Adam Bolton Mark
I'd
II.
tell him Mark II.
We're going to take a quick break. After that, Andrew Pearce, consultant editor for the Daily Mail, will be here giving us his take on the Labour Party conference. First, though, here's your Monday morning forecast. And it's not great. You might need a brolly. Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK is looking windy and chilly to start, especially in the north, with rain clearing the far south. Let's take a look at the details. Well, across southwest England, after this morning's rain clears away to the south, there will be scattered showers around and some sunny intervals also. Feeling cold, especially in the moderate northwesterly wind. A band of heavy rain will clear southeast England through the morning, and this will be followed by showers that could be heavy at times. Across Wales, there will be scattered showers around, though there will be some sunny spells too. The best of the sunshine will be in the south. Sunny spells for most across the Midlands this morning, but also some showers feeding in on brisk northwesterly winds and feeling more autumnal, especially in the wind, with lower temperatures than over the weekend. For northeast England, it will be a windy day with showers at times, most frequent and heavy along the coast, feeling colder than recent days, especially in the wind and along the sea line. It's going to be a windy and cold day across Scotland with scattered showers at times. Some of these will be heavy, particularly along eastern coasts later. After overnight rain, it will be dry for a time across Northern Ireland. However, there will be some showers later, particularly for northern coastal regions, feeling cold, especially in the wind. So it will remain windy across the UK this afternoon with further scattered showers, though some sunny spells too. And that is how the weather is shaping up for you on this Monday morning.
Hello there, it's Eamonn Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio
and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Sir Keir Starmer attacks Prime Minister Truss's mini budget as the pound plummets to an all-time low against the dollar.
Hello there, very good morning to you just after 9 o'clock, Monday 26th of September.
You're watching and listening to Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster, and this is what's leading the news this morning.
Sir Keir Starmer has kicked off Labour's conference in Liverpool with a policy blitz. He's vowed to reverse Liz Truss's cut to the top rate of income tax and announced a plan to end the UK's dependence on fossil fuels by 2030.
It comes as the pound slumps to an all-time low against the US dollar, further fueling fears of an imminent recession.
Protesters have clashed with police outside the Iranian Embassy in London as demonstrations against the Islamic Republic spread around the world. 5 officers were seriously injured, 12 people have been arrested.
The official period of mourning observed by the royal family has come to an end today, 1 week after the Queen's funeral. It comes amid new bombshell revelations surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in the wake of Brexit.
Thanks for getting in touch. You know how to do it, and hopefully we'll reflect more of those in the next.
Oh, there was a really nice one I wanted to read out, actually.
A nice one flooded in.
Quick! I found a lovely one. In fact, I'm not going to be quick enough to find it, but basically he said he loved waking up and switching us on, and it was a joy. Yeah, somewhere like something like that. Sorry.
You switch me on every morning. I'm just here. I'm just lovely. It is lovely. We should say to you that those of you who make the time and the effort to tune in via radio, via TV, and the magnificent, magical thing is those who start on TV at home and then continue with the radio as they get on the bus and whatever with their what is it? Your app and your iBuds, and your headphones,
earpods,
and in the car and all that sort of thing. But the main thing we need you to do is to spread the word. Spread the word out there and tell them. You don't even have to pay for us. We're free. We're cheap. We're
the best show in town because, why?
Why? I don't know.
Well, because we do the hard news and we also give you stories about poo and, you know, banter. We'll entertain you and
get
inform.
that in the BBC. Anyway, there we go. Get in touch. Our top story today is the Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, will today use Labour's conference to lay out their plans for the economy, including a promise to reinstate the top rate of income tax.
Let's get the thoughts in all of this from Andrew Pearce, consultant editor of the Daily Mail. He's at Labour conference for us this morning in Liverpool. Very good morning to you. Oh, goodness me. So they want to reinstate that tax cut straight away. And I suppose that's pretty much what they're doing. They're sitting back and watching the Conservatives do whatever they are doing, whatever you would describe it as, and enjoying that, really.
Yeah, I was talking to some people, Labour MPs last night, and they said the whole strategy is stand back and hope that this whole strategy unravels. It's audacious, it's a big gamble. We've seen the effect on sterling, although it seems to be stabilising overnight, but that's Labour's pitch, although there's tensions in Labour, because on Saturday, the Deputy Leader, Angela Rayner, was suggesting the 1p cut in income tax would be cancelled. Keir Starmer said yesterday it wouldn't be. And a lot of left-wing Labour MPs think Labour are being too cautious on tax. But again, the whole strategy is let's hope that the Tory pan unravels and then they win the next election. But it's a big risk by the Tories. It's the best Tory budget I've heard probably in 35 years. So let's hope it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that. I mean, a lot of people look and say, well, how the heck are we going to pay any bills? We understand the drip-down policy and all that, but do you think that doing what they have done, the Conservatives have now given Labour a chance to have distance between the two parties and therefore a clear choice for people?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt it's a clear blue water now between the two. The Tories are seen to be on the side of big earners because, let's face it, people earning over $150,000 a year are going to do very well out of this budget. But the signal they're trying to send is that Britain is open for business, it's open for investment. They want bankers from all around Europe to come here. And actually, that tax, top rate of tax, if it's so significant, Labour were in power. I think Gordon Brown was Chancellor for 10 years. Then he was Labour leader for 3 years, and he introduced the top rate of tax in his very last budget, just before the Tories won the general election, because it raises very little money. It's all about, it's a totemic tax, if you like. It's about Labour saying we're on the side of not the big earners. The Tories, by scrapping it, they're on the side of big earners. But in fact, it will probably bring in more money to the Exchequer, because you're not going to get people spending quite as much money on expensive accountants avoiding tax. That's the theory.
Could you give us a sense of the mood at conference there? Because I've heard some commentators describing it as being the most upbeat, buoyant Labour Party conference they can remember, because they can sense that there is fear, whether it be in the markets or in some parts of the Conservative Party itself, about that shock and awe mini-budget on Friday. Do you think there is a sense there that they might soon be, well, they are a government in waiting now?
There's no doubt about it. It's the most positive mood I've seen at a Labour conference in years. They think the Truss Kwarteng budget is a game changer. They think it changes it in their direction. Let's face it, the Tories have only got 18 months to make this work. If it doesn't work, the economy could be in big trouble. What some Labour MPs are already worrying about is they think the election is now in the bag, but they're worried if the budget crashes the economy, then they will inherit a really, really bad economic scenario, which could then cause them huge difficulties. But whatever shadow minister you talk to, whatever Labour MP you talk to, they say we can win the next election, and we will. They weren't saying that last year.
Interesting, yeah. It's all looking very interesting up in Liverpool. Can we turn our attention now, though, to what was happening in London last night, these protests that have spread around the world and indeed here now in the UK in response to the regime in Iran and the murder and torture of a young 22-year-old woman who had failed to cover up her hair suitably?
It's an extraordinary story. It's an extraordinary what's happening in Iran. The protests are continuing. They're now spreading all around the world. I don't quite know why we had to see so many of our own police officers attacked outside the embassy in London last night. But you do wonder how the Iranian regime is going to respond to this. Are they going to crush it, rather like the Chinese did in Tiananmen Square all those years ago, because they are in danger of losing control here. Women are literally burning their veils, burning their scarves, and the police are responding with increasing aggression. The number of deaths in Iran, we think, is probably 20, 30 already, and rising. Very significant protest, actually, and I think those protesters in Iran are very brave.
Yeah, but then you get a mixed message, Andrew. You look at the scenes we were just showing there about conflict with the police officers in London, and that's no way to further your cause. That's just a way of alienating people and saying, what's it got to do with us? I mean, stop picking a fight with us.
I know, and it's incredible that in Iran you can't protesting and demonstrating is against the law. It's not against the law in this country, and yet they're breaking the law by deploying such violence. You're right, they're damaging their cause enormously. Why are our police officers being attacked and beaten up for trying to enforce peaceful protests?
So it sort of reminds me of the George Floyd response when all the protests spread around the world. It is an interesting phenomenon, isn't it, through social media and the way images are shared, that people seem to respond sometimes to these sorts of things. And as you say, very strange that the police seem to get blamed in some way or caught up in it in this way.
In your paper today, the Duchess of Sussex, they're reporting, front page, saying how Meghan wanted to be the UK's Beyoncé. Instead, there were ridiculous rules to follow. This is a new book that is being launched.
Yeah, this is a book by Valentine Lowe. He's the royal correspondent on The Times. And he describes staff who worked for Meghan Markle as the Sussex Survivors Club, because this book says she bullied staff, including Samantha Cohen, who used to be press secretary to Her Majesty the Queen. She now works in Number 10. I've known Sam Cohen for many years. She's as tough as old boots. And if she's complaining she was bullied, it must have been pretty serious. But it's also saying Meghan rather thought that this would be her greatest ever role in show business, because let's face it, she's a third-rate actress in a show most people have forgotten called Suits or something, but she thought she'd become a great big showbiz royalty. She'd be Britain's answer to Beyonce, but she hadn't realised there'd be so many rules and regulations about the royal family. And we read in one of the Sundays yesterday, when she was on a royal tour, I think in Australia, she thought she should be paid for it because it was such onerous work. Hello, dear, didn't you realise the royal family are paid quite a lot of money to do that sort of work?
Yes, well said, Andrew. We're going to leave it there. Lovely to get your thoughts. Enjoy conference, and we hope to see you in person.
Nice to talk to you.
Take care.
Look forward to it.
Cheers. 11 minutes now past 9 o'clock on radio, on television, online. This is Breakfast on GB News.
Far-right party Brothers of Italy is projected to win the Italian election with 26% of the vote, leaving the way clear now for a right-wing alliance. Their leader, Giorgia Meloni, will become the country's first female prime minister and is now calling for unity to help confront the country's many problems.
Scotland Yard says at least 5 police officers were seriously injured, 12 people arrested following violent disorder near the Iranian Embassy in London last night. We were just talking about that with Andrew Pearce. These protests sparked by the death of Mahsa Amini, who died whilst in Iranian police custody.
2 teenagers have been charged with murder after 15-year-old Kyrie McLean was stabbed outside his school in Huddersfield. Police say the male suspect, aged 15 and 16, have also been charged with possession of a bladed article, and they'll appear before Leeds magistrates today. Lots of you getting in touch this morning. Rob says, of course, Starmer and Labour will fight to protect unions. They are Labour's paymasters, so Labour will do as they're told. This is all in relation to conference that's going on in Liverpool. Patrick in Birmingham says the Labour Party will have to do a lot more than sing the national anthem through gritted teeth to convince the majority of people they've suddenly discovered a love for our country and its history. It's obviously an opportunistic and shallow.
It was like those... what are they called? Stamp duty cuts that I was talking about. That they're not all that they're being painted. And I was saying that it's just a chance for a lot of sellers to realise that the buyers are saving some money and then to
absorb it,
wrap up the price of the house. Keith says the last stamp duty holiday during the COVID period ended up with house prices rocketing. The same will happen now, resulting in the very basic of houses being out of reach of most first-time buyers as the prices go up. I have to say that I think that it will be the case as well.
Steve Edwards has just got in touch in relation to the Iranian protests we were just talking about with Andrew Pearce. He said, good morning, all the copycat demos have been around far longer than Facebook. I remember as a police officer in the 80s when the Toxteth riots were on. Same thing happened, and that's from Cleethorpes this morning. He sent that. But yeah, thank you for your thoughts. As always, we love to hear what you think.
As the time approaches 9:15, we will take a break. And you're going to be also meeting the woman staying in shape as she approaches her 70s, right? So we'll be talking to her and we're getting your views after the weather.
I need all the help I can get. Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK is looking windy and chilly to start, especially in the north, with rain clearing the far south. Let's take a look at the details. Well, across southwest England, after this morning's rain clears away to the south, there will be scattered showers around and some sunny intervals also. Feeling cold, especially in the moderate northwesterly wind. A band of heavy rain will clear southeast England through the morning, and this will be followed by showers that could be heavy at times. Across Wales, there will be scattered showers around, though there will be some sunny spells too. The best of the sunshine will be in the south. Sunny spells for most across the Midlands this morning, but also some showers feeding in on brisk northwesterly winds and feeling more autumnal, especially in the wind, with lower temperatures than over the weekend. For northeast England, it will be a windy day with showers at times, most frequent and heavy along the coast, feeling colder than recent days, especially in the wind and along the sea line. It's going to be a windy and cold day across Scotland with scattered showers at times. Some of these will be heavy, particularly along eastern coasts later. After overnight rain, it will be dry for a time across Northern Ireland. However, there will be some showers later, particularly for northern coastal regions, feeling cold, especially in the wind. So it will remain windy across the UK this afternoon with further scattered showers, though some sunny spells too. And that is how the weather is shaping up for you on this Monday morning.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
On radio.
And online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel. Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Well, we're having a fascinating conversation here while you were on the commercial break. For many of us, getting older means a little less mobile, and Isabel's getting older this week. It's her birthday on Wednesday.
Thursday, actually, Eamonn.
Thursday, is that?
You know, yeah.
But anyway, but it does prey on a lot of our shoulders, whether you're going to be, you think you're old. I remember I thought I was old at 30, and then 40, and then 50. You know, you think there's no going back, and now I'm 52. And I think that I look well for my age.
You look very well for 144. But look, let's talk to somebody who really is defying her years. 69-year-old grandma, Julie Ford. I want to know what the Julie Ford method is, because you look amazing. And you say you feel better now than you did in your 20s.
Yes, I think as you get older, you feel more confident. And, you know, my ethos is just do little and often, keep moving, just keep moving.
Well, I want to know your secret for feeling more confident. I just feel it's too late.
No.
There's so many people going to be listening to you and watching, and they're going to say too late. But we do have to say for you, 69 years of age, right? And it wasn't as if you took this up a long time ago. You had a bit of a health scare, hadn't you, in your 60s?
Yes, about 7 years ago, I had a brush with cancer. And I felt physically everything was great. After my treatment, I went back to the gym because I was a great gym bunny. And I sat there thinking, nope, don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I want to be out in the fresh air, free fresh air. But I still wanted to keep her strong. And that's the key word, strong, as we get older as well. So I started walking with weights. You couldn't increase the weightage. Yeah. And then if you were on a 4-mile walk, you would end up like an orangutan by the time you got back. So I say at 65, I didn't retire, I restarted, I became an inventor.
Wow.
And I invented Instep, which is a walk-in resistance pair of bands.
So what, these bands go around your ankles or something, do they?
They go in your shoe, under your foot, like a stirrup. And you have a pair of them. It's attached to a rubber tube, a handle, and you walk and
you
move.
Literally can walk while you're doing this.
You can walk. You can go in the water. You can go in your house. You can go in the garden. You just walk and sort of do anything you want with them.
And toning was a big thing for you then. Was this about how you looked? Were you wanting to have those lovely, what do they call them, cocktail arms?
I love, defined arms. And with resistance training, it gives you shape and strength. It's proven to be the best form of strengthening exercise. And if you combine that with cardio, It's the golden ticket of exercise. It has been, I hate this phrase, scientifically researched, and it has been proven to be...
It's not just... You mentioned exercise there, but actually I'm looking at you and I'm looking back at your story, and a lot of it's about health, because as you get older, osteoporosis, you've got to strengthen your bones.
That's it. So it's that impact. So walking, as we know, you don't have to run marathons, triathlons. We're meant to move as human beings. We're not meant really to climb the Himalayas unless you live there. And there's too much pressure, I think, on people having to go and, beat the latest record, whereas it's got to be part of your lifestyle and your day, so you can do it. And subliminally, you're doing exercise all day long without knowing about it.
And for a lot of people, as they get older, one of the great joys of life is grandchildren. And we all know kids are active, kids are busy, and you need to stay fit to be able to keep up with them, to be able to kick a ball with them, or to be able to pick them up.
Is that a message to the grandparents around your children?
No, I have to say,
keep fit.
God love my mum. She had them all weekend. She was exhausted, but she was.
Well, I know, having children, I still wanted to exercise, and I found it quite restrictive. But I had a seat on the crossbar of a bike and one in the back for my 2 children. I was going to just keep moving, and that is the key. Keep moving.
What is it that makes you tick? Because you don't think you're exceptional, but you're making me tired just talking to you here. But what is it, do you think, Julie, that makes you tick?
I don't know. I think it's... I've always been a very positive person.
Yes.
And whether that's cyclical, it makes you have more energy.
You're a school teacher.
I'm still a teacher, yes.
Oh, yeah, you're still in school doing PE?
Yes.
At 69, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And do you
I love teaching.
Yeah, and do you think that that's part of the secret for you, keeping mentally active, having a role in life, being defined by what you do?
Yes.
So you wouldn't be a fan of early retirement?
Not at all.
No.
All the time you can keep moving and you're employable. Keep going.
But all of this, not to be negative, but, is it the case that even if you are a fit granny, still working, still moving, does your body let you down sometimes?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very depressing.
A bit more creaky than it used to be.
Yes, and you wake up and you think, oh, yeah, I felt that, but...
So you have to look after yourself, and the repair and the recovery, I suppose, becomes all the more important.
But the whole point, when you're exercising and those endorphins are released, that is such a buzz, as we know, and it's only 35 minutes, and it doesn't have to be running or, hard exercise. It's continual, 35 minutes, or just keep going all day long.
And that's not hard, is it?
No.
What's hard? What's not hard to use, hard to a lot of other people.
Well,
but listen, tell me about you and your age, and are you we're talking about exercise, but how important is food and what you put into your body as well?
Well, exactly, yes. You've got to, it's eat less, but I always say eat a little of what you fancy, because, again, quick fixes don't work. And I think if you get into that state of health and well-being, your whole metabolism works, so you don't want to eat them. I know if for whatever reason, if I have to sit down and not move, all I want to do is eat. Because you think, oh, what can I do now?
Yeah.
So it does work symbiotically.
Yeah.
Food, exercise, but again, it's sustainability. Eat less, exercise more. Yeah, but within your capacity, because we're all so different,
We're all so different. And there's, much is made these days about mental health. Again, you think symbiotically all of this ties in to the
healthy body, healthy mind. And it definitely is. And if you can get out in the free, fresh air, we're wired to the greenery and the sky. And it's such a buzz.
Perspective as well, isn't it? You feel small and
we know, especially as women, we talk to our friends and, you go for a walk, pretty miserable 20 minutes beforehand, and you come back and you think, right, that's it.
Yeah.
I know what to do now. It just is so good for you and get the blood circulating.
I tell you what, Julie, there's very few of us about. Do you think I look really fit? I mean,
fantastic.
I'm 51 now.
No, you're never 51.
I know people say I'm more like 43, but
I enjoyed your 60th a few years ago. That was fun.
You have to spoil everything. But like, as a man, am I a bit of a hunk? Like,
Oh,
for
you
my
certainly
age?
are.
Yeah.
You certainly are.
See?
Yes.
See?
I was dreaming about you all last night.
Well, on that note...
Well, a lot of people, we hope, will dream about you and what you do. Julie Ford is a total inspiration. She doesn't mind us saying that she's 69 years of age. She's had a brush with cancer. She reinvented herself at 65. She got into exercise big time, and she believes it's the future for all of us.
Yep.
It is.
Well said.
Keep going.
Stuff. Thank you very much indeed. That's it
My
from
pleasure.
us. We'll be back tomorrow from 6 o'clock. But for now, it's over to Tom, who is where?
He's at the Labour Party conference in Liverpool, I believe.
The show's coming from there today.
Okay.
See you tomorrow. Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK is looking windy and chilly to start, especially in the north, with rain clearing the far south. Let's take a look at the details. Well, across southwest England, after this morning's rain clears away to the south, there will be scattered showers around and some sunny intervals also. Feeling cold, especially in the moderate northwesterly wind. A band of heavy rain will clear southeast England through the morning, and this will be followed by showers that could be heavy at times. Across Wales, there will be scattered showers around, though there will be some sunny spells too. The best of the sunshine will be in the south. Sunny spells for most across the Midlands this morning, but also some showers feeding in on brisk northwesterly winds and feeling more autumnal, especially in the wind, with lower temperatures than over the weekend. For northeast England, it will be a windy day with showers at times, most frequent and heavy along the coast, feeling colder than recent days, especially in the wind and along the sea line. It's going to be a windy and cold day across Scotland with scattered showers at times. Some of these will be heavy, particularly along eastern coasts later. After overnight rain, it will be dry for a time across Northern Ireland. However, there will be some showers later, particularly for northern coastal regions, feeling cold, especially in the wind. So it will remain windy across the UK this afternoon with further scattered showers, though some sunny spells too. And that is how the weather is shaping up for you on this Monday morning.
Hello there, it's Eamonn Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio
and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's
News channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, Talking Pints